The courthouse steps were slick with October rain as I balanced my briefcase, coffee, and the Halloween costume my daughter Emma forgot at home. Just another Tuesday in the life of Judge Catherine Ross, mother of two, wife of one, and according to the papers being shoved in my face by my mother-in-law, an unfit parent. "You're an unfit mother," Beverly shrieked, her Chanel suit getting damp in the drizzle as she waved custody papers like a weapon. "I'm taking my grandchildren before you ruin them." I set down my coffee carefully on the courthouse steps, took the papers from her manicured hands, and speed-read through them with the practiced eye of someone who'd reviewed thousands of custody petitions. The errors jumped out like neon signs: wrong jurisdiction, fabricated allegations, forged signatures. Interesting strategy, filing false documents in my jurisdiction. "See you in court, I'll be the one in the robe." Her face went from righteous fury to confusion. "What are you talking about?" My lawyer said. "Your lawyer committed about 17 ethical violations in this document alone," I said calmly, highlighting sections with the pen from my pocket. "Forging a social worker's signature is a felony, by the way, so is filing false reports with Child Protective Services. I don't know what game you're playing, Beverly. I'm a family court judge, the Honorable Catherine Ross, the same courthouse where you just filed these papers, 3rd floor, courtroom 3B, my courtroom." The rain intensified as she processed this information, her perfectly styled hair beginning to wilt. Behind her, her husband Richard sat in their Mercedes, wisely staying out of the confrontation. He'd learned years ago that opposing Beverly was like trying to stop a tornado with a screen door. "You're lying," she said finally, but her voice wavered. I pulled out my judicial ID, the one I rarely needed to show, 12 years on the bench, appointed by the governor, and about to recuse myself from your case because even I can't be impartial when someone accuses me of being an unfit mother based on. I checked the papers again. "Letting my children eat non-organic fruit. That's not all, and you know it." Beverly regained her steam. "The public schools, the daycare, the fact that you work instead of being home. My son deserves better than a wife who prioritizes her career over her family." "Your son," I said evenly, "is the one who begged me not to quit when I was appointed judge, who splits childcare duty 50-50, who's probably at home right now making Halloween cookies with our kids because it's his turn for the school party. He shouldn't have to." She was building to full dramatic crescendo now. "A mother should." "Beverly," I used my courtroom voice, the one that could quiet a room full of angry divorcing couples, "I need to get to work. These papers will be reviewed by Judge Hoffman since I obviously can't oversee a case involving myself. But fair warning, he hates frivolous custody suits even more than I do." I picked up my coffee and Emma's butterfly wings, leaving Beverly standing in the rain with her fraudulent papers getting soggy. But I knew this wasn't over. Beverly Ashford didn't accept defeat, especially not from the daughter-in-law she'd despised since day one. The seeds of this confrontation were planted 7 years ago at my wedding to Daniel. I'd already been a judge for 5 years, the youngest ever appointed in our state. Daniel was a pediatric surgeon, brilliant and kind, and somehow still single at 35 despite his mother's best efforts to marry him off to what she called appropriate girls. I was not appropriate. I was the daughter of a single mother who'd waited tables to put me through law school. I'd worked public defense before becoming a prosecutor, then shocked everyone by accepting a judicial appointment instead of joining a lucrative private practice. I lived in a modest apartment, drove a Honda, and thought designer handbags were a waste of money better spent on legal aid donations. "She's not our kind," Beverly had whispered loudly at our rehearsal dinner. "Daniel needs someone who understands society, hosting, the importance of appearances." "Mom, Kate prosecuted the governor's son for insider trading," Daniel had said proudly. "She doesn't care about appearances. She cares about justice." Exactly my point, Beverly had sniffed. Our wedding was small, 50 guests in my mother's backyard, catered by her restaurant friends, photographed by a law school classmate. Beverly wore black and told everyone who'd listen about the society wedding Daniel should have had. When Emma was born 2 years later, Beverly ramped up her campaign. Every parenting decision became a battleground. Breastfeeding, so common. Public preschool, they'll never get into Harvard. Me returning to work after maternity leave, abandonment. "Just ignore her," Daniel advised, but he'd had 30+ years to build immunity to his mother's particular brand of toxicity. I was still developing antibodies. Noah's arrival 3 years after Emma coincided with my biggest case, a multi-state custody battle involving international kidnapping. I was nursing Noah between court sessions, reviewing documents while pumping, and somehow maintaining my perfect case record. Beverly saw exhaustion and called it negligence. The children need stability, she'd announced at Sunday dinner, apropos of nothing. Perhaps they should stay with Richard and me while you sort out your priorities. My priorities are sorted, I'd replied, Noah sleeping in my arms while Emma colored at the table. Family and justice, in that order. Actions speak louder than words, she'd muttered, eyeing my breast pump bag with disgust. The guerrilla warfare escalated slowly. Anonymous calls to CPS about concerns, picking up the kids from daycare without permission and taking them for treats that coincided with my important hearings, telling Emma that mommy loves work more than you when she thought I couldn't hear. Daniel tried to intervene, but Beverly was crafty. She never said anything directly to him, always waited until he was in surgery or at conferences. She saved her best attacks for when I was most vulnerable, during trials, judicial conferences, the rare moments when work genuinely did have to come first. I'm documenting everything, I told my best friend Sarah, also a judge in criminal court, just like I advise my custody litigants. She's escalating, Sarah warned. This won't end with passive-aggressive comments. She was right. The custody papers were Beverly's nuclear option, deployed because of last week's incident. I'd been presiding over an emergency custody hearing, a father trying to flee with children to avoid abuse charges. The hearing ran late, past daycare pickup time. Daniel was in emergency surgery. I'd called Beverly as a last resort. Of course I'll get my grandbabies, she'd cooed. Take your time. When I'd arrived at her house at 7 p.m., exhausted but grateful, she'd staged a scene. The children eating ice cream for dinner, you weren't here to feed them properly. Emma crying because Grandma says you forgot us. Noah with a suspicious bruise on his arm that Beverly claimed happened at daycare but I suspected came from her grip when he tried to run to me. This has to stop, I'd said quietly. Kids in the car, you're hurting them to hurt me. I'm protecting them, she'd replied, from a mother who cares more about strangers' children than her own. I save children, Beverly, from parents who actually abuse them, who burn them with cigarettes, starve them, sell them for drug money. You have no idea what real neglect looks like. I know what it looks like when a mother chooses career over family. No, I'd said firmly, you know what it looks like when a woman has a life beyond her children, and it terrifies you because you never did. That's when she decided to file papers. But Beverly made a crucial error. She assumed I was just another working mother she could intimidate. She didn't understand that I'd spent 12 years watching families destroy themselves in court. I knew every dirty trick, every false allegation, every way vindictive relatives tried to weaponize the legal system. More importantly, she didn't understand the legal community. Within hours of filing her false papers, my phone started ringing. Clerks who'd seen the filing, lawyers who recognized my name, Judge Hoffman himself, assuring me he'd handle this swiftly. She listed you as Catherine Ross, unemployed. He chuckled. Did she think we wouldn't notice our own colleague? But the funniest call came from the lawyer Beverly had hired, Marcus Webb, known for taking questionable cases for hefty retainers. Judge Ross, he said carefully, I need to withdraw from representation. I was not aware of the full circumstances when I accepted this case. You mean you didn't know I was a judge? I was told you were a part-time court employee who neglected your children for work. He paused. I've reviewed the allegations. They're creative. Feloniously creative? I'm filing a bar complaint against myself for not properly vetting this case, he said miserably, and recommending your mother-in-law seek psychiatric evaluation. The hearing was set for the following Monday. Beverly arrived in court like she was attending a gala, designer suit, full jewelry, an entourage of her society friends for support. She'd hired new counsel, some out-of-town attorney who didn't know our local judges. I sat in the gallery in my normal court attire, a simple black suit, minimal makeup, hair in a practical bun. Daniel sat beside me, having taken the day off despite Beverly's attempts to convince him I was the enemy. All rise for the Honorable Judge Hoffman, the bailiff announced. Judge Hoffman, 70 years old with a grandfather's face and a prosecutor's instincts, took his seat and immediately zeroed in on Beverly's lawyer. Counselor, I've reviewed your filing. Do you want to explain why your client filed fraudulent documents in my courthouse? Your Honor, my client believed. Believed what? That forging a social worker's signature was legal? That making false abuse allegations was acceptable? That lying about the respondent's employment would go unnoticed when she's literally a judge in this building? Beverly's new lawyer went pale, shuffling through papers. I was not aware. Of course you weren't, because if you had been, you'd have run from this case like your predecessor did. Judge Hoffman turned to Beverly. Mrs. Ashford, do you understand that filing false documents with the court is a crime? I was protecting my grandchildren. Beverly said imperiously. From what? A mother with a spotless record? Who's presided over hundreds of custody cases? Who Child Welfare Services consults as an expert? He held up a file. I have 17 character references here from social workers, guardian ad litems, and child psychologists, all volunteered without request when they heard about this case. She leaves them in daycare, Beverly protested. She works late. She has a job, like millions of parents, like your own son, who's a surgeon. Judge Hoffman's voice hardened. Mrs. Ashford, I've seen real neglect, real abuse. This is not it. This is a vendetta against your daughter-in-law disguised as concern for children. Your Honor, Beverly's lawyer tried. Perhaps supervised visitation. For whom? Judge Hoffman asked. The grandmother who emotionally manipulates children? Who tells them their mother doesn't love them? Who creates conflict where none exists? He looked directly at Beverly. Mrs. Ashford, you're the one who needs supervision. The judge continued. I'm dismissing this petition with prejudice. You cannot refile. I'm also referring this matter to the district attorney for potential charges of filing false documents, perjury, and harassment. This is ridiculous. Beverly stood up. I have rights. Yes, you do. The right to remain silent, which I suggest you exercise. Judge Hoffman turned to me. Judge Ross, I apologize that your family has been subjected to this misuse of our legal system. Do you wish to pursue a restraining order? I stood, using my courtroom voice. Not at this time, Your Honor. My husband and I hope Mrs. Ashford will seek the help she clearly needs. However, we will be documenting any further harassment and will not hesitate to seek legal protection if necessary. Daniel stood with me, taking my hand. My mother needs to understand that Kate is the best thing that ever happened to our family, to me, to our children, and to the hundreds of families she helps every year. I stand with my wife. Beverly made a sound like a deflating balloon. Richard finally spoke from his seat behind her. Beverly, enough, we're leaving. But now, for the first time in 40 years of marriage, Richard Ashford used his spine. You've embarrassed yourself, our family, and tried to destroy our grandchildren's home. We're done. The courtroom cleared slowly, Beverly's society friends avoiding eye contact as they fled. Beverly herself seemed smaller somehow, her designer armor no match for legal reality. Outside the courthouse, on those same rain-slicked steps where this began, Daniel pulled me close. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have stood up to her years ago. We both kept hoping she'd come around. I said, for the kid's sake. Dad's taking her to a therapist, he said, told her it's that or divorce. 40 years of marriage, and he's finally done enabling her. Think it'll help? Maybe, or maybe she'll just find subtler ways to be awful. He smiled sadly. Either way, she knows now. You're not just some working mother she can bully, you're Judge Catherine Ross, defender of families and crusher of frivolous lawsuits. I'm also the mother who forgot the Halloween wings this morning. I laughed, exhausted. Emma didn't care. She said her butterfly didn't need wings because she has superpowers from her superhero mom. We drove home to our modest colonial in the suburbs, not the mansion Beverly thought her son deserved, but perfect for us. The kids were with my mother, probably elbow deep in cookie dough and homework. Normal, stable, loved. That evening, as I helped Emma with her math and Daniel read to Noah, I thought about all the families I'd seen destroyed in court. Parents who weaponized children, who mistook control for love, who couldn't see past their own pain to their children's needs. Beverly had tried to make us one of those families. She'd failed because she'd underestimated not just me, but the entire system I'd devoted my life to. Judges talk, lawyers gossip, court clerks have long memories. You can't file false papers against a respected judge and expect it to go unnoticed. But more than that, she'd failed because Daniel and I were partners, real partners, who supported each other's dreams and shared life's burdens, who knew that love meant building each other up, not tearing each other down. Mommy, Emma said, pencil poised over her worksheet. Grandma Bev says I can't be a judge like you because judges don't have families. Grandma Bev is wrong, I said simply. Judges are people. We have families and friends and lives outside court. We just also happen to help other families when they're struggling. Like today? Daddy said you helped our family today. Sort of. Another judge helped us today because I couldn't do it myself. That's how the system works. We look out for each other. I want to be a judge, Emma decided, or maybe a butterfly superhero. Why not both? Daniel suggested, making her giggle. Later, after bedtime stories and dishes and the 1,000 small tasks that make up family life, Daniel and I sat on our porch with tea. The rain had cleared, leaving crisp October air and bright stars. Think she'll try again? He asked. Maybe, probably, but it won't work. I leaned into his warmth. She showed her hand too early. Every judge in the state will know about this by month's end. She'll never get another lawyer to file against us. My mother, the cautionary tale. There are worse legacies, I said. Maybe other grandparents will think twice before weaponizing the court system. My phone buzzed. Sarah, texting from criminal court. Heard about today. Hoffman called Beverly a walking bar exam question on frivolous litigation. You're a legend. I showed Daniel, who laughed for the first time all day. Should we frame that? Definitely. We sat in comfortable silence, two working parents who'd survived an assault on our family. Tomorrow I'd be back in court, presiding over other people's custody battles with even more empathy for the wrongly accused. Daniel would save children's lives in surgery. Our kids would go to public school and eat non-organic fruit and thrive despite their grandmother's predictions of doom. And Beverly? She'd have to live with the knowledge that she'd tried to destroy her own son's family and failed spectacularly, that she'd mistaken a judge's compassion for weakness, a working mother's balance for neglect. Most importantly, she'd learned that filing false papers in family court wasn't just wrong, it was catastrophically stupid when your target spent every day watching people try the same tricks. You know what the ironic part is? I said as we headed inside. If she'd just been a normal, loving grandmother, she'd have unlimited access to the kids. Now she'll be lucky if we allow supervised visits. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Daniel agreed. Come on, Judge Ross, let's go check on our allegedly neglected children. We found them both sound asleep. Emma clutching a toy gavel I'd gotten her from the courthouse gift shop. Noah surrounded by picture books about families of all kinds, safe, loved, and blissfully unaware that their grandmother had tried to tear their world apart. She'd failed. She'd always been going to fail. Because at the end of the day, love isn't about control or appearances or forcing families into prescribed boxes. It's about showing up, doing your best, and protecting what matters. And if someone tries to use the legal system to destroy that, well, it helps when you're the one wearing the robe.
Now residing with my parents, the realization hit me hard. My marriage, once believed to bring happiness, had only been a facade. My husband, whom I trusted, turned out to be using me, and I felt betrayed by my in-laws. The mother and son duo, oblivious to their own naivety, seemed oblivious to the practicalities of life. Faced with the threat of being kicked out, I questioned the essence of being a family with such people. The decision was clear. I needed to take charge. Swiftly reaching out to everyone, I initiated preparations for the next chapter of my life. As for the household items, I arranged for a service to pick them up. The following day, furniture and appliances were taken away, prompting a panicked response from my husband. I am Michelle Thompson, a 35-year-old woman who has been working from home since college. Despite a monthly commute, I am a full-time employee, thanks to the accommodating nature of my company. A motorcycle accident during my college years left my legs disabled, confining me to a wheelchair. Despite ongoing rehabilitation efforts, the prospect of improvement remained bleak. Embracing my condition, I had initially resigned to the idea of lifelong singleness. However, a blind date arranged by friends reintroduced the desire for companionship. I met Ken, my now husband, who, despite being 5 years my senior, exuded youthful energy. His straightforward demeanor, though bordering on rudeness, intrigued me. Ken's genuine curiosity about my life in a wheelchair set him apart, and I appreciated his unfiltered interest. Despite societal norms, his bold inquiries made me feel seen and understood. As we continued dating, I convinced myself that happiness awaited me with Ken. Blinded by the prospect of a lasting connection, I eagerly accepted his proposal after just 6 months of dating. Immediately after our marriage, things took an unexpected turn. Ken and I decided to move into my standalone house, which, despite being a rental, was relatively pricey but exceptionally wheelchair-friendly. It seemed the previous tenant had made the place more accessible, and Ken appreciated the spaciousness. Since I spent a lot of time at home, I naturally took on most of the housework. Occasionally, when I asked Ken for help, he would dismissively claim exhaustion, refusing to lift a finger or assist me in the bath. Despite managing on my own, bathing took longer, and I reminisced about the days when a caregiver visited twice a week to help. Frustrations mounted as Ken neglected to put away bath items, making the process even more time-consuming. Pleas for understanding fell on deaf ears, as Ken failed to recognize the house's design catered to my needs. It became evident that Ken's initial attraction had been to the house, appliances, and my ability to handle chores despite my disability. His unemployment and nightly partying further strained our relationship. While the realization was heart-wrenching, I clung to the notion that our marriage must have some love to it. Financial issues crept in, with Ken increasingly relying on me for money. Seeking advice from his mother only brought biased support, leaving me feeling lost without any family to turn to. Friends dismissed my concerns, emphasizing Ken's facade. Ken's unpredictable behavior, fueled by alcohol, pushed me to my limits. I grappled with the dilemma of enduring the situation or facing a solitary future. Just as the idea of divorce started to gain prominence, Ken unexpectedly proposed living with his parents. Stunned, I learned he intended for them to move into our place. While I understood the desire to be near aging parents, their good health made the proposition perplexing. I couldn't comprehend why Ken's parents were considering moving from their own home to ours. Did they genuinely need to stay here? With 4 people in the house, it would be cramped, and given that I work from home, it would be quite inconvenient. You're always thinking about yourself, huh? I never thought you were this selfish, Ken accused. I'm just questioning why they need to move here when they have their own place. Our home is more spacious, modern, and equipped with all the conveniences. Besides, it's designed to be accessible for elders. If Ken's parents move in, I'd have to be on my toes during work hours. While Ken is rarely home, his retired parents would likely be around a lot. Sharing the bathroom and kitchen? I'm slower than most people, and I can foresee the challenges of such a living situation. Can I have some time to think? You better hurry up. We don't have much time, Ken retorted. Despite his claim of limited time, Ken wasted no time. By the weekend, he brought his parents over, making me suspect they had been planning this move for a while. You know, I've been thinking. Maybe you should consider a facility, Ken's mother suggested. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A facility for me? Yeah, it's a good idea, right? You have your own limits. In a facility, they take care of everything. It became apparent that Ken wasn't just contemplating his parents moving in. He was also considering sending me away. I'd visit you from time to time. That statement jolted me awake. If not now, then when, Ken? What am I to you? Your wife, right? Would you really tell your beloved wife to go to a facility? Hold on. When did I say I love you, Michelle? Ken's words flushed my face with anger. This guy, Ken, was using me. Wasn't it my fault for letting it get to this point? I thought I had to draw a line. Then, even more shocking words came out of Ken's mouth. In this house, I'm going to live with my parents. You, an outsider, can go live in some cheap facility. What'd you just say? I looked to his parents, hoping for support, but they just had eerie grins on their faces. Why are you laughing? What's the big deal, huh? Were they targeting my home even before our marriage? Things have been escalating too fast lately. I need to evict these people. Please leave. What, leave now? How can you talk to my parents like that? I felt like I saw the real Ken. He was yelling at me with such fury. If he cares so much for his parents, why doesn't he earn his own money and build them a house? Why does he have to take mine? My head felt like it was on fire. It's okay, Ken. Michelle must have been shocked since we came unexpectedly, his mother said. We just came to check the place today. Yeah, we need to check before moving in. Looks like there are more appliances than last time. Seems comfy to live in. They were genuinely here to take over my home. In an attempt to steady my nerves, I took a deep breath, inhaling oxygen. A sudden question lingered in my mind. If I leave, how are they planning to sustain themselves? His parents rely on a pension, and Ken is just a part-timer. I'm covering all the rent and living expenses. Who's going to handle the $2,800 monthly payment? Do his parents assume Ken is covering the living expenses? Disregarding my concerns, his parents cheerfully departed, with Ken following suit. I'm going to stay at my parents' tonight. Hold on, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I, the man of the house, have decided. I won't change my mind. Left alone in shock, I couldn't linger in that state. I promptly contacted a real estate agent I knew. When Ken returned the next day, he saw the organized belongings and chuckled. Oh, started packing. Found a place to move to already? Yes, I have. Ken appeared genuinely surprised by my swift response. And here's the card of a divorce lawyer. Here you go, Ken. From now on, let's communicate through the lawyer. A divorce? Why? If you're kicking me out, there's no point in being married anymore, right? Ken looked as if he had been hit by a ton of bricks. He hadn't anticipated my swift mention of divorce. You can't live without me, right? I don't understand what you mean. Who else would marry you? I can live on my own, but you said you wanted to get married. It was at this moment that I realized how arrogant and overconfident Ken had been. He approached me assuming I was a lonely, disabled single woman. I'm independent, have money, and never struggle with my living. Plus, I stay home all the time, so I handle all the chores for him. I'm the ideal woman. Money keeps coming in even if he doesn't work. He thought I wouldn't leave because I couldn't find anyone else. That's why he was shocked when I casually brought up divorce. Why? You know, if you divorce me, you might be single for the rest of your life. Well, if it means living a married life with you, I'd rather be single forever. Whether I spend the rest of my life alone isn't for you to decide. The typically submissive me was now fighting back, and he was getting flustered. I could tell that Ken was panicking. I never thought he was such a weak man. I don't know why I had been putting up with him for so long. Once I decided on the divorce, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I guess I had been too focused on getting married. Anyway, you don't have to move out right away. I didn't mean to rush you into a facility that soon. Oh, it's fine. I'll do as you wish. Don't worry. You won't find a place that fast. Think it over, okay? I've already secured a place, so it's all right. What? Wait a minute. Isn't this too soon? Observing Ken's shifting attitudes, from smugness to panic, only heightened my irritation. Calmly, I explained, the facility staff are informed and know about my situation, so everything's fine. Wait, when did you even set all this up? Were you preparing all along? Ken questioned. Yes, even before I met you. In fact, I had been considering my retirement and had an eye on a particular facility, more like a condo. After an injury during my hospital stay, I delved into various investment books, diversifying my investments between my salary and my parents' inheritance. The facility I had my eye on, I had already purchased and had been renting it out for income. I never mentioned this to Ken. It's my hidden asset. We don't need to get a divorce. I get it. You can stay here. Let's live with my parents. Do you not get it? Why would I ever do that? He seemed pretty dense. Even after bringing up divorce, he still believed he was the only one for me. Sorry, but my mind's made up. What's your problem? You're so selfish. If you come crying back later, it's not my problem. I won't be, so don't worry. Ken fell silent, deep in thought, for what seemed like hours. During that time, I started packing up my things. Then I heard Ken making a phone call, likely talking to his parents. It seemed pathetic, relying on them for such decisions. Eventually, Ken approached me. Fine, we'll get a divorce. Just leave quickly. Ken said begrudgingly, perhaps realizing he might miss having me around like a housemaid, but he probably thought that living with his parents would save him from household chores. He has a house, and it's fully furnished. No issues for daily life, at least for now. With that thought, he headed back to his parents' home. I'm going to talk to my folks about what's next. Get ready to move out quickly. Yes, I'll do that. I finished moving all my stuff within a week, and during that time, Ken never showed up. We met again a day after the move was done, as I was trying to start my new life in my new house. Ken called me outside and said, Hey, what's going on? This place is almost empty. Where are the appliances? I had a service pick up those items for me. I called the service the next day and had them collect all the furniture and appliances. My husband became agitated and started grumbling. Not only Ken, but also his parents were there. All the appliances here were bought by me. They are all from when I was single. The only thing that's yours is right there. There were only 3 cardboard boxes. I did leave the clear clothing container we bought after marriage. Michelle, we can't live with this. We need to split the property if we're divorcing. That's right. We can't live here like this. What are you talking about? Nobody can live here. What do you mean? The rent's $2,000? Ken and his parents were stunned. I told Ken when we got married, this isn't your own house. No, it isn't. I got a bit of a discount on the rent because I asked a real estate agent I know. If I move out, the rent will go up even more, given that this is a property with disability access, and I've already received several inquiries from people with the same concerns. I recommended that they move out. Why didn't you tell us sooner? What are we going to do now? Ken's mother was notably agitated. I don't know. I did tell Ken. I didn't hear about it. I'll sue you. Ken threatened. I saw that coming. Honestly, from an outsider's perspective, it might look like I selfishly got a divorce, broke the lease, and took all the furniture and appliances. But I was sure you can sue. But do you even have the money for it? Ken's face twisted. He couldn't afford a lawyer, even if by some miracle he could. I have an ace up my sleeve. I showed them some pictures. When did you take these? The pictures showed Ken gambling and womanizing. I spent my money on this. I'm ready to use these in court, Ken. What the hell? I thought everything was going well. His parents were particularly agitated. What's going on? Then suddenly, Ken started to apologize. I'm sorry. Please come back. I need you, Michelle. You're the one who kicked me out. We're already divorced. So what are you talking about? Besides, you don't love me, do you? If that's the case, I'll just leave then. This time, even Ken's parents began to apologize next to him. We don't have a place to live anymore. That was a shock. What do you mean? Our house got foreclosed on. Turns out Ken's family home will be repossessed in a few weeks. They've gone bankrupt. The debt that his father accumulated grew like a snowball and became an amount that's impossible for retirees to pay. Ken, who used to receive an allowance from his parents when he was single, probably thought he was in trouble and decided to get married, hoping for support. Now I understand why his mother was so kind before we got married. I can't help you now. We're strangers. Even if my folks and I end up homeless, are you okay with that? You brought it on yourself, didn't you? Ken's ulterior motive was clear as day. I firmly told him I had no intention of giving him even one piece of furniture or electronics. Please don't say that. Have some mercy. It's too late for apologies. Now sort it out on your own. That's why I'm asking. I can't sort it out. I told Ken and his father, who were so persistent, that if they couldn't pay the rent, they should move out. The place is in my name. So if I cancel the lease, that's the end of it. Evicting them was easy. In the end, even if the lease was transferred, Ken probably couldn't afford to live here. I heard all of this from the real estate agent. I can't pay the rent. In the end, I decided to cancel the lease here. I no longer need this place, and since the divorce is final, everything is over. I somehow kicked out the stunned family of 3 and locked the door. What are we going to do now? I can move into a facility. Goodbye. Facilities like that probably have no freedom and are the worst, right? Good luck in that crappy environment. Maybe Ken felt unsatisfied, not having the last word because he spat out those bitter words. I ignored Ken and his parents and left the scene. But Ken wasn't going to stay put. A few days later, he showed up at the facility where I had moved. Hey, what's this about? Looking at the facility where I was, Ken looked like he was about to faint. It's not a crappy environment at all. It's a luxury facility worth $1 million. I had saved up money, and with the earnings from my investments, I bought this place. The previous occupant had left at the perfect time, so I was able to move in immediately. With the sale of my house and some extra income, I still had plenty left over. This facility is top-notch, with doctors and helpers on site. The floor plan is just like an apartment, with plenty of privacy. The room is a 3-bedroom, so families can live together. There are even couples and families living here. I can call a helper with the push of a button, and there's assisted bathing every day. I originally thought of this as my final residence, but I'm glad I made the move. You had this much money then? Why? I really don't want you coming all the way here. We're strangers now. Please leave. Then Ken suddenly started acting all sweet toward me. Honestly, it's creepy. Can't you just let me live here? What are you talking about? That's impossible. We're divorced. Face reality. That's why. Let's get remarried. I'm living in a motel now. Isn't that pitiful? I can't get a job because I don't have an address at the motel. He's such a smooth talker. He seems to have quickly abandoned his own parents. In the end, he only thinks about himself. Why don't you take a look in the mirror? You look pathetic, living off your parents at your age, becoming a freeloader after marriage, and now begging on the streets. Ken's face turned bright red. You're not ashamed to be clinging to your ex-wife. Look, everyone's watching, aren't they? Residents peeking from their balconies were watching. Actually, I had asked them in advance to look out if my ex-husband came to visit. I thought Ken would surely come looking for me at least once, either to gloat over my miserable state in the facility or to beg. The residents were very cooperative. They purposely looked at Ken with pity. It's like a real-life drama. I want to applaud them. Ken finally noticed the stares and seemed to realize how embarrassing he was being. I won't ask any more. With a pale face, he muttered those words and disappeared. I don't think he'll come here anymore. Later, when I went out, I ran into my mother-in-law working at a supermarket checkout. My father-in-law was a janitor, and my mother-in-law was a cashier. As soon as my mother-in-law spotted me, she turned her face and tried to hide. She was being scolded by a young employee for her attitude. Ken was apparently introduced to a job by someone he met at the motel cafe and was being exploited at a very low-paying job site. I frequently host home parties and live happily every day with people from the same facility. I also became good friends with other wheelchair users. If I had known such a community existed, I would have moved here sooner. I found the time to attend physical therapy sessions. My current goal is to get my legs moving on my own. I lead a fulfilling life both at work and in private. My name is Emily, and at 26, I'm a driven career woman. Currently, I share a home with my husband, John. Lately, I've been contemplating starting a family soon, but John believes we should first focus on building a house and settling down before considering children. Therefore, we're diligently saving money for our future home. Despite my desire to start a family promptly, John remains adamant about his stance. Whenever I broach the topic of children, he reiterates the need to establish our home first. It's disheartening how he disregards my perspective. I resign myself to the idea that I must work harder to contribute to our savings. John and I have been married for a year now, and I've noticed a pattern in our relationship. He rarely considers my opinions, a trait that persisted from our dating days. Initially, I admired his strong convictions, but in marriage, mutual respect for each other's viewpoints is essential. I fear our marriage is faltering, especially with the influence of his parents, who live just a short drive away. John frequently visits his parents, citing reasons like cutting down on expenses. However, I've discovered he indulges in drinks with his coworkers, conveniently omitting these expenses from his frugal calculations. It's perplexing how stringent he is with me about saving, yet lenient with himself. His frugality extends to trivial matters like conserving hot water and turning off lights prematurely, directives he imposes solely on me. If only he extended the same standards to himself, perhaps our relationship wouldn't feel so one-sided. I would be seething with anger. However, he seems to believe it's acceptable to impose his ideas on others. Every week, when we visit his parents' house, a new problem surfaces. Hasn't it been a year since you got married? We want some good news soon. Well, we'll be able to see our grandchild, exclaims both my in-laws, putting immense pressure on me. Glancing at John, sitting beside me, I can tell he's glaring disapprovingly. It's evident he wants to say, don't say unnecessary things. While I share the desire for a child, John insists on building our own home first. It's entirely inappropriate for my in-laws to pressure me to have a child in this situation. Rather than advising John, who doesn't listen to my words at all regarding having children, my in-laws persist in pressuring me. Despite wanting to speak up, I'm silenced by their constant pressure for a grandchild. After the meal, John announces, I'm going out for a smoke. You know, Emily, it seems like you're working, but if you want to be a housewife, you should quit your job and work hard to be a good wife. Maybe that's why John isn't paying attention to you. It feels as though I'm being told I can't have children because I'm working. Despite my strong desire for children, John is the one not thinking about having them anytime soon. Just quit your job already, urges my in-law. I retort, it was John who asked me to work. Why don't you talk to John first before constantly lecturing me? Expressing my anger, I continue. When it comes to having children, I want them too. But it's John who stubbornly refuses to listen to me until we have our own home. Instead of nagging at me, why don't you make sure you tell your son the truth? My words leave my in-laws in a state of shock. I excused myself with a simple apology and left the table, making my way towards the entrance. The anger within me extended to John, who leisurely smoked by the entrance. Without saying a word, I climbed into the car, and he followed suit, casually remarking, Hey, are you leaving already? Knowing he would never disclose the truth to his parents, I grew weary of the various things my in-laws constantly told me. I declared that I wouldn't be visiting my in-laws' house anymore, and John widened his eyes in surprise. Why not? We can save on food expenses, right? You also want a home soon and children, don't you? He questioned. Fed up with the continuous impositions from both him and my in-laws, I snapped back. If it's about saving, I've told you many times that we would save more if you stopped going to drinking parties or smoking. Instead of driving to your parents' house just to save the cost of one meal, why don't you save in that way? Everyone needs a break. Expressing my frustration, I continued, You keep imposing things on me, like not using hot water and turning off the lights by 10 p.m. You think we can save money without sacrificing anything. If I have to go through all this trouble alone, then I don't need a home. I'm fed up with this. You never sacrifice anything yourself, but you're okay with imposing it on others. He seemed to downplay the situation, saying it's not a big deal. But I countered, no, it is a big deal. How much patience do you think I've had all this time? Moreover, I was infuriated by his pretense in front of his parents, making it appear as if I were the reason we couldn't have grandchildren. I'm tired of being the only one asked to have grandchildren. It's not me who doesn't want children, it's John. I've been saying it for a long time. I want children soon, so please stop being so angry. Seeing John struggle to deal with my unusual anger brought a slight sense of satisfaction, but it didn't resolve everything. Unsure of what to do next, I gazed out of the car window, ignoring John. A turning point for us came a month later when one of my relatives, my father's brother, passed away. With several pieces of land, a luxurious mansion, and a lavish lifestyle, my uncle's passing became a revelation for John. Impressive. I didn't know you had such a remarkable relative, he remarked a few days later. Upon receiving news about my uncle's inheritance, I decided to discuss the details with the lawyer in our apartment. Recognizing that it was a matter exclusively related to me and had no bearing on John, I politely asked him to leave the room, especially since he seemed uneasy about the concept of inheritance. I wanted to spare him any potential trouble that could arise if he got involved. After about 3 hours of listening to the lawyer explain the intricacies of the inheritance, I thanked him and asked him to leave. However, to my surprise, John, who had been at home earlier, was nowhere to be found. Assuming he had probably stepped out to avoid interrupting my conversation with the lawyer, I started preparing dinner. Little did I know, 3 months later, John approached me, expressing, "There's something I want to show you," and took me for a drive. Excitement welled up as we entered a residential area, but my confusion grew when the car parked in front of a certain house. John then pressed the intercom, and my in-laws emerged from inside. However, it was evident that this house was not their home. "You finally made it. When are you and Emily moving over here?" "We're thinking of moving in by the end of this month," announced my father-in-law. He continued blaming me for being a selfish daughter-in-law and accused me of always shifting the responsibility for having children onto John. I shot a disapproving glare at John, bewildered as to why he brought me here when I had clearly stated I wouldn't visit my in-laws anymore. Searching for an explanation, I questioned him, and he simply shrugged, stating, "Don't get so angry. If we live together, we can bridge the gap between you and my mom. Besides, this will be our new home from now on, so you should cooperate on the children issue as well. Live together." His revelation left me in disbelief. I hadn't agreed to living with them, especially after explicitly stating that I wouldn't go to my in-laws' house anymore. The situation was further complicated by the nature of the house. As John disclosed, it's a two-family house. My plan was always for us to live with my parents eventually. "So, what's the problem with living in a two-family house now?" he asked. The question lingered in the air as I mulled over the situation. Living in a two-family house seemed to be a significant issue, especially when considering our savings. According to our financial situation, building such a splendid new house was seemingly impossible. I couldn't fathom how John managed it. "My dad and I chipped in the money, so our savings are empty, but it's fine, right?" John casually mentioned. His nonchalant attitude perplexed me. He continued, "I heard your uncle's inheritance was worth $690,000. So, if you use that money to repay us for the cost of the two-family house, it should be fine, huh?" I was taken aback. The idea that he believed my inheritance should be used to fund the house without my consent baffled me. Even if I were to inherit the money, how I used it should be my decision, not his. Frustrated by my rejection of their proposal, John reached into his bag and pulled out a pre-filled divorce form with his name on it. "Your money is our money. If you don't like living together, let's get a divorce," he declared. I took the divorce form from his hand, expressing, "Fine, if living together is the alternative, then divorce is the better choice." Firmly placing the divorce form into my bag, I turned my back on him and my in-laws, who looked stunned. Ignoring their reactions, I continued, "By the way, I renounced my uncle's inheritance." John froze with a bewildered expression. Without waiting for a response, I took a bus and headed home to our apartment. Upon arrival, I promptly filled in my name on the divorce form, which already had John's name on it. I then submitted the divorce papers and immediately purchased cardboard boxes at a home improvement store to start preparing for the move. Recognizing that I couldn't handle the move alone, I hired a moving company. Fortunately, it turned out that not many moves were happening during this season, allowing for a quick relocation. As I packed for the move, a commotion outside the front door indicated John's return. I had the chain lock on, and I addressed him, "Sorry, I had the chain lock on. I don't know what you might do when you're so angry. Besides, I need to finish packing for the move. Could you stay at your parents' house for a few days?" "I won't accept a divorce," John declared, widening my eyes in surprise. I reminded him, "But you handed me the divorce form, didn't you?" "If you sign the divorce papers, that means you agree to the divorce, you know." Astonished, I questioned whether he truly understood the implications of what he had done. He frowned, appearing frustrated, but quickly changed the subject. "Why would you give up on a $690,000 inheritance?" "Normally, you'd inherit it," he questioned. It seemed he had overheard some details about the inheritance but hadn't grasped the full story. Likely, after learning about the $690,000 inheritance, he had rushed to my in-laws, and they impulsively purchased the two-family house without considering the consequences. I explained the inheritance discussion came to me because there wasn't anyone else to inherit it. My uncle had 3 sons, 2 daughters, a wife, and grandchildren. However, all of them renounced the inheritance, so it ended up coming to me. My uncle did have $690,000, but he had to demolish his mansion, spend a lot on maintaining his land, and had plenty of debt. I realized that renouncing the inheritance was a better choice than inheriting it. John was in disbelief, exclaiming, "No way. So even if you had inherited $690,000, you're saying there wouldn't have been much money left? That's fraud." I explained that the lawyer and I had a proper discussion about it, but someone had eavesdropped and left before hearing the whole story. My words left him speechless, and perhaps he finally realized he was in the wrong. However, I asserted, "It's too late now. You betrayed my trust. We've already filed for a divorce, and you and I are no longer a couple. Why are you suddenly saying you don't want a divorce now? If you truly didn't want a divorce, you should have followed me right away when I returned, shouldn't you?" I reminded him of the consequences of his actions, emphasizing that his mother's opinion about the divorce didn't change the fact that he and his father had invested in the 2-family house. His mother's lack of experience with work didn't allow her to fully appreciate the value of money. I sighed, realizing it wasn't my role to listen to his complaints about his parents. If we were still a married couple, I might have entertained the conversation. However, I reminded him, "You haven't submitted the divorce papers yet, have you?" He pleaded, "If you do it now, we can still be a couple. Please, let's live together in that 2-family house." "I've already submitted the divorce papers, so it's pointless now," I replied. His expression slumped in front of the apartment door, appearing bewildered and lost. While I believed he brought this upon himself, I couldn't let him linger outside forever. Briefly considering sending him away, I realized I had no time to waste, so I continued with my preparations for the move. After a while, he was gone, and I proceeded with the move, informing my workplace about the divorce, especially since my boss had acted as our mediator. Feeling obligated to apologize for the divorce, I also shared the news with my coworkers who had been invited to our wedding during lunch break. Unexpectedly, he burst into my department in front of my coworkers, claiming, "It's absurd that you're talking about the divorce. I wish you hadn't mentioned it." He disclosed the situation in his department, assuming I had inherited an estate, and suggested buying a 2-family house. When faced with the choice between divorce or living together, I chose divorce. Consequently, he found himself being avoided by everyone. I even received sympathy from colleagues. Eventually, he quit his job. During this time, a male colleague confessed to me, saying, "I've actually liked you for a long time. I hope to build a home where we can communicate as a couple and work things out together. I have a new girlfriend. I'm going to live here with her, so I'm divorcing you. And you're going to go to your parents. I don't understand what you are saying. I don't need you anymore. I can leave you with my parents if you want to be a breadwinner or a housekeeper, Noah." You understand, my parents-in-law and my husband laugh at me. They are the worst kind of people. But for me, it's better that way. Then you all need to leave. My name is Noah, and I am a 32-year-old office worker. I have lived my whole life working after graduating from college. I started working for a major company. For about 10 years, I worked hard and obtained qualifications for promotions. Thanks to that, I am now department manager at such a young age. I am blessed with a boss who always has something useful to say to me. In a group of highly motivated and talented subordinates, I was very fulfilled in my work, but my personal life was not at all fulfilling. I had a boyfriend once when I was a student, but none since I started working. Worried about my situation, a friend of mine hosted a dinner party for me. That is where I met Matthew. He was kind, had a nice smile, and gave me the impression that he was very personable. And since he was the same age as me, we had a lot in common, and it was fun talking to him. We soon became friends, exchanged contact, information, and started going out to eat alone together. Then he confessed his feelings for me, and we started going out together. We got along well, and he proposed to me, and we ended up getting married. I was so happy to be married to the man I loved so much, and soon after, I went to his parents' house to greet them. His parents were very kind and welcomed me with open arms. Noah, it's nice to meet you. I can't believe such a beautiful person came to be Matthew's bride. I am so proud of my son for bringing a good woman here. Hey, Mom and Dad, stop it. Noah is getting scared. Oh my, if you really think so, you can say it. That's right. It's a compliment, so it's okay. His parents were very friendly and easy to talk to, just like him. Noah works for a major company, doesn't she? Oh no, that's great. It's cool to be a woman who can work hard. Will you quit your job when you get married? No, I'm going to keep working. Well, you've got a good job at a good company. That's better. I was relieved. According to my friends around me, I had heard that their mother-in-law told them to quit the job. They say that they are often told that it is a wife's job to support her husband, so I was glad. I thought to myself that my would-be mother-in-law was generous. After greeting my parents, we were married. My heart was filled with excitement for the new married life that was about to begin. My husband moved into the house I was living in, and we started our new married life together. I'm very happy to be newlyweds with my husband, whom I love very much. I'm happy to be able to be at home with him all the time, and I'm also happy to have him home when I come home from work. 6 months into our life together, my husband said he had something he wanted to discuss with me. If you don't mind, I'd like you to live with my father and mother. What do you mean, live together? Yes, they are getting old, and I am worried about many things. I see. I can certainly understand how my husband feels. My parents are about the same age as my husband's parents, but my brother and his wife are currently living with them, so I have nothing to worry about. However, my husband is an only child, so it is understandable that he is concerned about his parents. Does this mean we are living with my in-laws? Yes, it would. But do they have a room available for us? They use every room for some reason or another. About that, if you like, I think it would be a good idea to renovate my parents' house and make it a 2-family house. 2 families? Yes, if we do that, it will be much cheaper than buying a new house. We can live in a beautiful and spacious house while still maintaining our privacy, right? I see. I thought it was indeed an attractive proposal. My in-laws are very kind people, and we won't be together all the time. If we live in 2 houses, it would be less stressful. Yes, that's fine. Really? Thank you. My mom and dad will be so happy. I was happy to see my husband so happy. Later, my in-laws came to visit us, and both of them were very grateful. I even thought that with such a kind and cheerful family, I wouldn't mind not having 2 households. Soon after that, my husband and I discussed remodeling my in-laws' house. The cost would be around $100,000. But as we were discussing it, my husband made a surprising remark. Actually, I have a favor to ask you. Can you pay for the remodeling? What do you mean, the full amount? Why then, my husband looked very uncomfortable. Actually, we are in debt. I was surprised. Neither my husband nor my parents-in-law had ever said anything like that when we were dating or when we got married. I was surprised. How much debt do they have? About $150,000. What? I thought it would be a few tens of thousands of dollars, but I was surprised at the amount of money, and I ended up shouting out loud. It wasn't so bad at first, but it gradually grew, and even if I tried to pay it back, I couldn't. My parents are already living on a pension. I can't pay them back as much as I'd like, and the debt is getting bigger and bigger. I see. I could not hide my surprise and upset at the sudden and shocking revelation. I had no idea that my parents-in-law owed me such a large sum of money. Noah, I need a favor. Will you help me pay off my father and father-in-law's debt? They can't afford it anymore, and I don't make a very good salary either. Then isn't it going to be tough to renovate the house and live together as two families? No, that's important, so let's go ahead as planned. You have asked me to pay for the remodeling and your father's debt. I'm on the hook for $250,000, I know. I'm talking about difficult things, but I want to take care of my life with Noah. And I want to protect my mom and dad. It's because I love both my parents and Noah. I'm sorry. I'm being greedy, but if you really love me, please help me. I'll pay you back little by little. I was very distressed. My husband and my in-laws have no one to turn to but me, and I knew that my husband really loved me. But at that time, I was completely deceived by my husband's words. Love is blind, I think. And that is exactly what it is. Okay, I'll pay for it. I agreed to do so. Then my husband said, "Thank you so much." And he shook my hand and thanked me very much. He told my parents-in-law, and later they came to our house and apologized to me. My mother-in-law even shed tears of joy. I have to do my best from now on. I had to take over my in-laws' debt, and I was determined to do it. However, although I had some savings, I was afraid to pay it all at once. So for now, I decided to pay about $330,000 from my savings and then pay the rest in installments. Then my in-laws joined us, and we talked about repayment. I explained to my in-laws about the installments I had just made. They said that I could do whatever I wanted. Then why don't you transfer the money directly to the account for debt repayment? We're not very good at managing money, and I'm a little afraid to transfer a lot of money. When my husband said this, my parents-in-law nodded. Indeed, it would be time-consuming for me to transfer the money to my parents-in-law's account and then for them to transfer it to their repayment account. And since it was a large sum, I would not like it if the money was not transferred in the middle of the process. So I agreed to that. Once the conversation was settled, my parents-in-law looked very relieved. Now we don't have to be afraid of the monthly debt collection. That has been really scary. Dad and Mom, you should thank Noah properly. Well, I can't tell you how many times I thanked you. I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I'm so glad Noah came to be his wife. No. I was happy that my in-laws were happy. However, I felt a little uncomfortable because I thought that they might think of me as a money spinner. When they said those last words, I felt a little bad, but I wanted to take care of my beloved husband's family. With that in mind, I began to make payments, and at the same time, we remodeled our house and completed our two-family home. We started living together in a beautiful and spacious house. My parents-in-law were very happy, and my husband's eyes lit up at the new house. I too enjoyed cooking with the new system kitchen, and I was glad to have the remodeling done. It is more convenient and closer to work here. If commuting time is shortened, that gives me more time to spare. I can also make good use of that free time to study. I was spending my days working hard to pay off my debt. However, there was something that bothered me a little. That is, my husband did not help me pay off the debt at all. When I told him about my parents-in-law's debt, he said he would help me pay it off, and yet he has shown absolutely no sign of paying for it out of his own paycheck. When I mentioned this to him before, he told me that his salary was not enough at all to make the payment. I asked my husband what his take-home pay was and asked him to show me his pay stubs, but he stubbornly refused, so I don't know how much he earns, but he has to repay his debts. I worked hard for about a year to pay off the debt. At that time, my parents-in-law asked me how much money I had left to repay. If it's been a year, well, you haven't lost that much, yeah. At most, you'd be paying back about $10,000 to $155,000. Well, just to give you an idea, we paid back about $30,000 this year. So the remainder is roughly $90,000. When I said this, my parents-in-law were extremely surprised. What? You paid back that much, Noah? That's amazing. At that pace, you will finish paying back the loan in about 3 years. If I work hard, I'll be able to pay it off, Thank you so much. My parents-in-law were crying and happy. I thought that if my husband's parents were happy like this, it was worth all the hard work. A few days later, however, I encountered an unexpected situation. I had to work overtime that day, so I told my husband I would be home late. However, the work went surprisingly smoothly, and moreover, many of us had free hands, so we were able to leave on time. So, I hurried home as usual, thinking I would cook dinner for my husband. But when I opened the front door, there were my parents-in-law's shoes. Oh, my mother-in-law and her family are here. I thought they had something to do, so I walked toward the living room. Then, I heard my parents-in-law and my husband talking about something. You were right to marry that woman, weren't you, Matthew? You did great. I can't believe you got a woman with that much money. When I heard she works for a big company, I was really cautious and seduced her. You should be more grateful. Oh my, you're one of the people who created that debt. What? But I'm the one with the least. What are you talking about? How much did you spend on horse racing? Your gambling is terrible. I get a jackpot once in a while, so there were times when we were in the black. How can you be in the black when you owe $150,000? But at this rate, we'll be able to get out of debt and get back on track. That's really great. And she even remodeled our house. I got a really good wife. Well, I'm going to throw her away after she pays off the debt. My husband and parents-in-law laughed. I was so stunned that I couldn't move from the front door for a while. After calming down a little, I made a loud noise as I closed the lock and said, "I'm home," from the front door. When I went to the living room, my parents-in-law and husband greeted me with smiles. "Oh, Noah, welcome home. Good job, good job. Well then, we're going back to our room. Let's have dinner together again." I was so afraid of this gentle smile of my parents-in-law because I had heard their earlier conversation. Likewise, this man who was pretending to be a good husband with a smile on his face shocked me. I wondered what I had been doing to try to pay them back. "Didn't you say you had to work late today?" "Yeah, I've been working a lot more than I expected, so I decided to hurry up and cook dinner and came home on time." Didn't know that. I tried my best to act calm until dinner so that my husband would not realize what I had done. Then, when my husband was taking a bath, I stayed in my room and cried alone. But crying as hard as I could made me want to give my husband and in-laws a break. I cried as hard as I could. From then on, I acted quickly. I began to prepare for the divorce and then steadily made plans for what to do after the divorce. About 3 months passed. I pretended to be happy and told my husband that I had paid off my parents-in-law's debt. My husband rolled his eyes. "What? You paid off the debt? That $150,000 that was supposed to take roughly 3 years, right?" "Actually, I have quite a bit of money saved up, but I was afraid to pay it off all at once. So I started taking out a little bit from my salary and savings. But we were already below $100,000, and I thought it would be better to pay it all off at once." "I see." And then I asked, "Do you mind if I check?" and asked to see my bank book. I showed my husband the bank book. Oh, it's true. $90,000 was paid all at once. My husband tried to contain his excitement as much as possible, but I could see that he was itching to get out of there. "Wow, Noah, thank you. My dads are going to love this." My husband put his hands on his face and seemed to be crying, but I knew it was just an act, and he was pretending to cry. Soon after that, my parents-in-law also came and thanked me. "Thank you so much. I'm so glad I met Noah. You're like God." If I had not known any of this, I would have surely been happy to be along for the ride. Having been deceived, but I already know what these people are really like. And I only acted because I was ready for my plan. A few days later, my husband asked to speak with me. My husband looked very serious. "What on earth?" "I'm sorry, Noah, but you have to leave me." "What? What do you mean?" I acted surprised on purpose. "I have a new girlfriend." "What?" "I'm going to live here with her, so I'm divorcing you, and you're going to my parents' place." I was really taken aback by Matthew's unexpected statement. I knew from eavesdropping on our earlier conversation that my husband would leave me when he finished paying his debts. However, I did not expect him to openly declare his infidelity. What did he mean by having me go to his in-laws after you left me? I don't really understand what you mean. When I said this, my husband's mood turned sour, saying you're not very understanding at all. I don't need you anymore, but as a breadwinner or a housekeeper, I can keep you here. Oh no. Then the front door opened, and my in-laws came in. Matthew, did you finally tell her? Yeah, I told her. I wish I could have been there for that moment. No. That's how it is. You can come to our house if you do the chores for us. Of course, we'll charge you rent though. My parents-in-law and my husband laughed at me. They are the worst people ever. But that's more than I can say for me. Then all of you need to leave. My in-laws rolled their eyes at my comment. What are you talking about? Have you forgotten? I can easily pay for the renovation myself. You changed the name of the house to mine. That's why I have the rights to this house. I can decide who to let live in the house and who to kick out. The faces of my in-laws turned blue at my comment. Then they finally remembered about the title of the house. I was really dumbfounded. I'm sorry, but you can't live here anymore. If we get divorced, you'll be strangers. Oh no? My in-laws realized the gravity of the situation. But my husband, not wanting to be outdone by me, retorted, but you took over our debt and paid it in full. You're the one who's losing money. If we had no debt, we could at least afford a new place to live. That's true. Thank you for letting us live in a nice house while you pay our debts. My in-laws and husband said as much. So I told them the fact. I'm sorry, but I didn't pay off the rest of the $90,000 debt. What? No. But you had money missing from your bank book. That was just a separate account that I created and moved around. So the debt hasn't changed for $90,000. I just haven't had the collections come yet because I've been paying large sums of money continuously. But I think it's time for them to come. So you are responsible for paying the rest. My husband and in-laws went pale. Then I shot them a warning. Matthew, you told me you were having an affair, so you should pay the alimony. I'll charge your partner for the affair too. Oh no, she went out with me even though she's beautiful because I own a house and have money. If they charge me alimony, she'll dump me. I don't care anything about that, Noah. I apologize. Please don't leave us. My husband is afraid of being dumped by the adulterer, and my in-laws are afraid of being dumped by me. They are truly selfish and scum parents and children in every way. I will have nothing to do with you people anymore, no matter what you say. I have also put this house on the market. I will also have you pay your debt of $60,000 that I paid on your behalf through my lawyer. Oh no, the in-laws froze, stunned by the loss of everything they had. I then demanded a divorce and alimony from my husband through my lawyer. I also demanded alimony from the adulterer. I demanded $6,000 from my in-laws for what I had paid them. Actually, that renovated in-law house sold for about $200,000. It was in a good location, and there was a family that was just looking for a duplex, so we got a good price. They were able to buy it. So I had to pay $160,000, which included the $60,000 I owed on the debt and $100,000 for the renovation. I had paid $160,000, but gained $40,000 as a result. In addition, I also get alimony from my ex-husband and the affair partner, which is a very positive situation. On top of that, I was able to get a small payment of $60,000 from my ex-parents-in-law. I am the one who is getting the most out of this situation. I think this is a reasonable request because the damage I have suffered was so bad that I distrusted people. As for me having that much savings to begin with, I was trying to learn how to invest so that I could pay off my in-laws' debts as quickly as possible. And since I had quite a lot of savings to begin with, I put a few tens of thousands of dollars or so into investments. I found that my assets had grown quite a bit in about a year. Plus, I had gotten a raise, so I was getting paid quite well. So I was able to take such a drastic step because I had saved a lot of money. I was the biggest beneficiary, and my former in-laws were back in debt, and they lost their house. To be honest, I think they deserved it because they cheated me like fraud. People like that should go to hell. For once, I should reflect on what happened to me this time and develop a better eye for people. From now on, I will also continue to save and increase my assets so that I can live a luxurious life in my old age. And I want to make many happy memories with people I can truly trust. What did you think of this story? And please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. My husband Jack revealed Andy's prenuptial agreement upon receiving his inheritance, declaring, "I don't need a life with you anymore. I'm inheriting $5 million. I don't need you when I have that money." His cold words signaled the demise of our marriage after years of living together. I felt like a mere obstacle in his pursuit of wealth, but he remained oblivious to the significant secret tied to the $5 million inheritance. Mom, is it true that Grandpa is in critical condition? My daughter Sophie's unexpected question caught me off guard. Ethan, Jack's father, had a serious health problem, and the information was supposed to be a secret between Jack and me. Did you get that information from your dad? The only one who could have told Sophie was Jack. Yes, and on a call from Dad, he told me to renounce Grandpa's inheritance. Sophie's words unsettled me. With a single phone call, my peaceful life was about to be shaken. A few days after Sophie's revelation, Ethan passed away peacefully. Since getting married, I had lived with Jack's parents, providing unwavering support during their health struggles. It had been 5 years since Jack's mother passed away, and now, with Ethan's passing, the funeral went smoothly. Yet just as I thought I was free from tension, Jack's behavior underwent a dramatic change. "What are you doing here? Why hasn't it been cleaned properly lately?" Jack frequently pointed out minor dust and small stains. "I'm sorry, I must have missed it. I'll clean it right now." However, the issue wasn't just about cleaning. "Why are you serving this? I wish you'd pay more attention to the taste when you cook." Even the dishes he used to enjoy were now unappreciated. "Is there something bothering you lately?" I gathered the courage to ask, but it only worsened his mood. "It's useless to deny it. To be honest, the food you make isn't good. I've been tolerating it because my parents never complained, but I've always felt its tastelessness deep down." Jack's words pierced my heart, marking the first time he had criticized me so severely. My mom always cleaned and did laundry perfectly, and at meal times she cooked with care without cutting corners. "You're nothing like her." I've been patient, but I can't stand it any longer. This was the first time he compared me to his mother and criticized me. All I could do was deeply reflect on myself. "I'm truly sorry. I couldn't have imagined that he valued my cooking so little." Tears started to flow uncontrollably. "Do you think anything will change if you cry? Your tears mean nothing now. Don't show them to me." Jack abruptly stood up, leaving the house and slamming the door behind him. As he walked away, I called out, "Jack, where are you going? Come back." But it seemed he didn't hear me. My mind was in turmoil, unable to comprehend this sudden change. Until a few months ago, we were a couple sharing everything, holding hands, and navigating life's challenges together. I couldn't understand how we had become so distant. And then I remembered. The call from Sophie revolved around Ethan's inheritance. There was a hint of hesitation in Sophie's voice that night. Jack arrived home much later than usual, and I missed the chance to inquire about it. I wondered if Jack had discovered information about the inheritance and chose to keep it to himself. Attempting to approach Sophie, I questioned why they were discussing inheritance while Grandpa was still in good health. Sophie expressed doubts about Jack's actions and mentioned conveying the same concerns to him. Considering Sophie's words about the inheritance falling into her hands if not divided differently, I couldn't help but recall Jack's recent cold behavior towards her. Doubts crept into my mind. Was he planning to take all the inheritance and abandon me? This thought tightened my chest, and tears welled up once again. In my pain, I became acutely aware of the sounds around me. As the room fell eerily silent, the phone rang suddenly, echoing throughout. Though I didn't feel up to answering, considering the importance, I checked the caller ID. It was Jack's name. The same Jack who had left the house earlier. Answering felt tiresome, but I didn't want to face any backlash for ignoring it, so I hesitantly picked up. "What are you doing? Don't keep me waiting. I'm running out of time." His sudden, authoritative tone caught me off guard. He was indeed stubborn at times, but yelling without reason was unlike him. Shocked by his changed demeanor, I let out a slight sigh, hoping he wouldn't notice. "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" I asked. "I have something to talk about. I'll be home soon. Stay home and wait for me." His voice sounded noticeably colder than before. I replied with a brief "okay" and promptly hung up. Looking at the clock, I realized more than 3 hours had passed since Jack went out. Overwhelmed with confusion and pain, I hadn't noticed the time. After a while, I heard the door open and Jack's footsteps. A sweet scent of body wash, one we didn't use at home, wafted from him. That unfamiliar smell intensified the pain in my chest. "I'll be straight. It's over. I want to end our relationship. As a token of gratitude, I'll give you $220,000. I'm genuinely tired of you not managing things at home. I want to live peacefully in my old age," he declared. Linda, who had dreamt of a peaceful old age, now faced the shattering of that dream by none other than Jack. "Why are you?" Her words trailed off as she searched for what to say. Jack looked at her with a smug smile. At that moment, a bright ringtone from Jack's cell phone filled the room, an unfamiliar tone different from his usual one. To Linda, it felt like this unusual sound hinted at communication from a specific individual. "I'm sorry, but I haven't finished my errands yet." Linda sensed a slight softness in Jack's voice, different from how he usually sounded towards her. It felt somewhat kinder and more intimate. Furthermore, the sweet scent of body wash, the unique ringtone, and the change in tone hinted at something he might be hiding. "Linda knew it," whispered quietly. After ending his call, Jack looked down at Linda with emotionless, cold eyes. "My intentions haven't changed. I want you to sign this document. I'll contact you later. Make sure to have it signed by then. I don't plan to come back to this house. Remember, this house is now yours." Without uttering another word or even looking at my face, Jack headed towards the door. What did our long marital life of 40 years mean? A few days later, I found myself at a lawyer's office gathering information about Jack's actions and Ethan's inheritance. When I explained it to our daughter Sophie, her complexion changed. It was painful to reveal our mistakes to our daughter, but out of love for me, Sophie shed tears and showed strong determination to confront Jack. She introduced me to a lawyer to support us. "Hello, I am Robinson. I will be handling your case. I will support you to the best of my ability." The woman named Robinson, sitting across from me, seemed to be in her late 40s, exuding a calm aura. Her neatly groomed hair and professional attire provided reassurance. "I'm truly sorry for approaching you suddenly. My name is Lily Johnson. I'm a bit nervous since it's our first meeting under such circumstances." "That's all right. I have already received some information from Sophie," Robinson assured me. Based on what I'd researched and the information Robinson separately gathered, we verified the facts. My husband didn't have any siblings, so if Sophie renounced the inheritance, the substantial fortune of about $5 million would all go to him. We also uncovered an important fact about his affair with a woman named Jennifer through joint investigation. "How do you intend to proceed from here?" Mrs. Robinson asked in a gentle tone and soft eyes. "Thank you from the bottom of my heart," I said, appreciating her. After exchanging fees and a brief discussion, I quietly left the office. 5 days later, I received a call from Jack proposing a meeting at a quiet cafe. I arrived a bit earlier, choosing a seat by the window to enjoy the calm outside view. When Jack and his new girlfriend Jennifer walked in, he smirked with a sense of pride. "Are you prepared for the divorce?" I was a bit surprised that this was his first statement. It seemed he's convinced he's in full control. "Is this your new associate?" I hadn't expected him to bring her to such an important discussion, and I was astonished at his decision. I wondered if he was the man I once deeply loved, or had he changed because he cheated, or was he always like this? I couldn't tell. Are you Jack's wife, right? My name is Jennifer. I've recently started dating him, she said. Her sudden smile left me grappling to grasp its meaning. I've read a lot about you from Jack. Seeing you in person, you do look a bit aged. I wonder how Jack endured all these years. I feel a little sorry for him. Indeed, Jennifer seemed to take great care of her appearance, looking much younger than her actual age in her 60s. Compared to her, I might look my age, but I couldn't accept the way she phrased it. Jennifer, it's those tendencies of yours I warned you about. But indeed, if it were me, I would cherish you more, she continued. I know, Linda. I don't want you to overthink it anymore. I just want you to file the divorce papers, Jack interjected. I was taken aback by Jack's expected attitude. Hold on, there's something I want to discuss. A hint of confusion was evident on Jack's face. What are you getting at? Is it all about your father's inheritance? Is that why, after all our years of marriage, you're deciding this? I wanted to know the truth behind all these events. I can't see how my father's inheritance and you are related. That's solely my father's. I've heard detailed stories about your father's vast inheritance from Sophie. I know how much it's worth. So what? That inheritance isn't for you to take. But I'll answer. Actually, more than the inheritance itself, the end of taking care of my parents is one of the reasons I want to part with you. Just a caregiver role. How had Jack seen me only as a caregiver and not the loving wife I used to be? I didn't even have the energy to cry. Can we speed this up, Jack? I want to start a new life. Besides, have you still not let go of Jack? Don't make me repeat myself. I'm not thinking of a new start with you now. I want you to file the divorce papers. Waves of emotion struck my heart with intense anger and deep sadness. My hand quivered slightly. Taking a deep breath, I pulled out the divorce papers. But my name isn't written yet. The situation isn't settled yet. To hand it over, I asked, "You remember promising me the house and money, right?" "Yeah, I did say that. I'm a man of my word, so I plan to give you the house and money." His response surprised me. "You say you're kind. But a truly kind person wouldn't just use their wife as a mere caregiver and then abandon her. So I'm demanding rightful compensation of $30,000 and the rights to the house." "What compensation? When we talked about money, it was supposed to be $20,000. You always nitpick at the very end. Your attitude of trying to pay me the absolute minimum is so obvious. But the difference of $10,000 means a lot to me, so I think $30,000 as compensation is fair." "Your girlfriend, it's Jennifer, right?" I thought of claiming from her too, but in lieu of that, I want to settle for $30,000. And I intend to sign the divorce papers right here in front of you. Unexpectedly, Jennifer commented, $30,000 should be fine, Jack. Pay it if you're satisfied with it. With her statement, Jack finally accepted the alimony of $30,000. Now we need Jack's signature on the land title change document Mrs. Robinson prepared and the notarized alimony agreement. Jack looked surprised by my preparations, but I calmly said, "I have a life to continue to," easing his suspicions. We took out our respective seals, lined up at the designated spot, and Jack smiled as if he anticipated something. "So, Linda, will you sign the divorce papers right now?" "Understood." I agreed, saying, "Here's the divorce paper." As I carefully wrote my name and firmly stamped it, Jack couldn't hold back his laughter and burst into loud guffaws. "With this, you and I no longer have any relationship. Also, I have something to tell you. Actually, I'm set to inherit $5 million, so I didn't need someone like you anymore. Thanks for the divorce. What a foolish ex-wife you had, letting go so easily for just $30,000. It's surprising." Behind me, as I left, the loud laughter of Jack and Jennifer echoed. I hurriedly left and headed to the city hall. My only goal now was to complete this procedure as quickly as possible and sever ties with the two of them completely. They might be laughing happily now. but I wondered how long their happiness would last. A month later, I quickly sold the house I received from Jack, prepared for a new life, and decided to live near my daughter Sophie, who planned to start her life near her husband's parents' home. Since Jack's mother lived nearby, I thought there would inevitably be moments I'd feel cautious. Contrary to my concerns, Sophie's husband warmly welcomed me and was always considerate, which I found very reassuring. My daughter Sophie seemed angry at Jack's actions at first, but when I told her a certain fact, her expression changed completely, and she smiled brightly. I had a hunch that Jack would soon realize my plan. As proof, I deliberately didn't change my mobile number. The day that intuition became a reality came sooner than I thought. From the afternoon, my mobile rang repeatedly, and sure enough, it was Jack. He called many times, but at first, I purposely didn't answer. After receiving repeated calls, I finally picked up. "Hello, why are you doing this?" I couldn't hide my surprise. "What's the matter?" "You called out of the blue, raising your voice. What's the problem?" "Where are you right now?" I thought he might have visited the house we used to live in. But in reality, that house had already been sold, and the new tenant might have moved in, or it could have become an empty lot. Considering this fact, the image of Jack's panicked demeanor surfaced in my mind, and I felt a little sorry for him. "Since we've decided to divorce, there's no need for you to be involved anymore. Where did Sophie go?" "I can't find her." "It seems he went to Sophie's previous house." Of course, she wasn't there. I managed all the information and procedures related to Sophie's husband's family home, so Jack had no way of knowing. He seems to have hit a dead end and contacted me. "Yes, actually, Sophie has moved to a new place." "Why didn't you tell me something so important? Moreover, did you know about that too?" It seems my husband finally realized the truth. By that, are you referring to the significant hidden debt that Ethan had? Actually, when I investigated Ethan's inheritance in detail, I was shocked by the amount of the inheritance. But at the same time, I found out about a considerable hidden debt. Probably, while he was alive, he estimated he could repay the debt with about $5 million and hid that fact from us. However, he passed away midway through repayment, and the hidden debt was left neglected. And when you officially receive an inheritance, you are also obliged to inherit such hidden debts. Jack was blinded by the allure of easy money and neglected thorough verification and investigation. That was his big mistake. "So, I have a question. Did you really know about my dad's debt?" Jack asked. "Information is easy to come by. It becomes clear to anyone with a little search. That's why I noticed it." I imagined Jack turning red with anger on the other end of the phone. "Anyway, what about the promised money? What about the money you intended to return?" I had my suspicions, but his real goal was money after all. Besides, about that property. If I had known about my dad's debt from the beginning, I wouldn't have gotten involved at all. "I understand how you feel. I thought it deep down, but I chose not to say it. But think about it, putting aside the money issue for a moment. You got to marry a very attractive woman, right? Isn't that pretty lucky? Of course, I don't know if Jennifer chose Jack because of his assets or if it was truly love. As soon as Jennifer found out about my debt, she left me. I thought she would. It's exactly as I expected, Linda. Think about it. How about starting over with me? I feel deceived by Jennifer. I just realized now you're the person I really need." The tone of Jack's voice suddenly dropped and became emotional. I wondered if he had forgotten everything he did to me. "I'm cornered. Every day, I'm being rushed by collectors, and the debt I can't repay is piling up. I'm at my limit. I really feel my life is in danger. Help me, please." Even after hearing his desperate plea, I calmly thought, if I were in this situation, would Jack help me? I carefully chose my words and took a deep breath before answering. "Right now, I'm living peacefully and am truly satisfied. And in the days to come, I want to live in peace. You might have forgotten, but remember what was said at my response." Jack was momentarily lost for words on the other end of the phone. "You mean back then?" "Yes, exactly, Jack. I'm really grateful that we were able to get divorced. Thank you for giving me a chance to choose a new path. I felt the tremor in Jack's voice and his tears, but for my future, I made up my mind and quietly ended the call. This marked the complete end of our relationship. I don't know how Jack's life is now or how he's repaying his debt, but I hope he's making an effort somewhere. Linda, how about taking a walk outside while looking at the beautiful scenery? Currently, I'm enjoying my days with a wonderful person I met through a hobby in Chicago. He's very warm and always with me. Spending time with him brings me unparalleled happiness. You'll be fine going to the hospital alone, right? I swear I'll send you straight to hell. My name is Lisa, and I'm currently 9 months pregnant. It's my first time giving birth, so while I'm filled with anxiety, I feel truly blessed about welcoming a new member into our family. My husband, David, is a white-collar worker and has weekends off. However, he doesn't offer much support around the house or help with shopping. This is because he usually goes back to his parents' home on weekends. David has a deep bond with his in-laws, and since their home is nearby, he spends almost every weekend there without any specific reason. Since becoming pregnant, I've been cautious about lifting heavy objects. For instance, when buying heavy items like rice, understanding friends often help out. My daily routine starts by waking up early, preparing breakfast for David, and seeing him off to work. Afterward, I do the cleaning and laundry, and then head out for any necessary shopping. Once I return home, I start prepping for dinner. Only after finishing these tasks can I finally have some relaxation time. Since taking maternity leave, I've taken up a new hobby, blogging. Every day, I write a diary accompanied by photos I take, such as meals, the blue sky, flowers blooming in the garden, and more. Many friends and acquaintances leave comments, and these moments of journaling have become small daily joys for me. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, my husband returned home as usual. He carelessly placed his bag and jacket on the sofa, and I tidied them up, hanging them on a coat hanger. "Welcome back. I made hamburgers for dinner. I'm going to take a bath," I said. Responding curtly, he headed straight for the bathroom. 3 years have passed since we got married, and there has been little kindness or consideration from him. I occasionally wonder if this is truly what a marital relationship should be like. But I've resigned myself to it. When David returned in his pajamas, I handed him a drink. "Where's the beer?" he asked, glancing at the bar. I hinted, "Sorry, I forgot to buy it today. I'll get some tomorrow." "Seriously? Go to the convenience store now." His demeanor changed immediately, and he spoke with evident anger. I was irritated. Why was he asking his pregnant wife to do this? If you want it so badly, why don't you go get it yourself? It's hard for me to move around with this big belly. At that moment, he became even angrier and started shouting. "You're the one who forgot to buy it. It's your job to fix that mistake. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get special treatment." My mother always said it's important to keep moving for the sake of health. Knowing that he doesn't calm down easily when he's angry, I reluctantly decided to go to the convenience store. Once I arrived, I bumped into Sarah, a neighbor. "Oh, Sarah, good evening." "Good evening, Lisa. Did you forget to buy something too?" "I ran out of sauce so I came here." Sarah's cheerful voice slightly lifted my spirits. "My husband really wanted beer, and he told me to buy it. Why didn't he just go himself?" That's what I said, but it didn't get through to him. "It sounds like you're having a tough time, Lisa." After walking together for a bit, Sarah and I parted ways at a crossroad. When I returned home, David was lounging on the sofa, watching TV, having not even cleaned up after dinner. "Why did it take you so long? What were you dawdling around for? Give me the beer." David's disgruntled voice and his insensitive remarks made my heart ache. However, I handed him the beer without a word and began cleaning up after the meal. How could he say such things to me, especially when I'm pregnant? I felt the urge to retort, but I didn't want another shouting match, so I remained silent. Afterward, I had my dinner, took a relaxing bath, and headed to the bedroom. The next morning, David acted as if nothing had happened. It seems he's the type to forget everything after a good night's sleep. However, I couldn't forget his words from the previous night, and I consciously ignored him. "Why are you making that face so early in the morning? Don't take it out on me. I'm heading to work now, so be a bit considerate. You know the importance of appreciation, right?" Due to what he said, I was filled with the urge to retort, "That applies to you, doesn't it?" But out of shock and disbelief, all I could do was sigh deeply and see him off. "Be careful, right? I won't eat dinner tonight. See you." Without any explanation, David left in a hurry. After seeing him off, I took care of household chores and went shopping as usual. However, since David mentioned he wouldn't be having dinner, I decided to prepare something simple just for myself. Then, as I was about to start my meal alone in the evening, I heard David's unexpected return and rushed to the entrance. "I'm back. Thanks for your hard work. But you said you didn't eat dinner today, right?" "Yeah, but my drinking party got canceled. I'm hungry. You have something to eat, right?" "Well, I only prepared a meal for myself today." Upon hearing this, David's face contorted with anger. "Didn't you even consider the possibility I might come back? This is unbelievable." Saying that, he moved to the dining table, and upon seeing the dinner I prepared, his mood worsened. "What do you call this a meal? I seriously question if you're properly doing your duties as a housewife. Don't waste the money I'm working for. I quickly prepared something for myself. Please don't get mad like this. Maybe you should learn proper cooking from my mom. Honestly, I've always found your cooking lacking." Again, he always compares me to his mother. Doesn't he realize how hurtful these comparisons can be? "I can't eat this. Go buy something." Hearing this, my heart sank further. What does he think of me? It's already night, and I've taken a bath. Can't you go buy it yourself? Forget it. You forgot to buy beer yesterday, didn't prepare dinner today. It's so frustrating. I'm going back to my parents' place. David stormed out, and left alone in the house. I strangely felt a sense of relief. The next morning, as I expected, I received an angry call from David's mother. "How can you not serve David a proper meal? This feels like moral harassment, if not worse." I explained what happened yesterday, but she wasn't accepting it. So I apologized and ended the call. After the call, my mood plummeted. Since David wasn't home, I decided to have a leisurely late brunch. However, the thought of David coming back tonight weighed on my mind. Considering yesterday's events, I decided to make tonight's dinner special. I shopped with more care than usual, picking out ingredients and adding David's favorite beer to the cart. I was determined to prepare a dinner that would earn David's praise. I shortened my blog update time a bit to allocate more time to cooking. After dedicating ample time to preparations, the table was set beautifully, as if it was a special occasion. Looking at it, I felt a sense of accomplishment and couldn't help but praise myself. With this, he should definitely be satisfied. I waited patiently in the dining room for David to come home, but as time passed, there was no sign of him. I tried contacting him several times via my smartphone, but there was no response, and I became more worried as the clock continued to tick. 1 hour, then 2 hours passed, and I began to get anxious. Did he possibly go to his parents' house? Thinking this, I called David's parents to check, but they said he hadn't come there either. I tried calling David multiple times, but still, there was no response. As midnight approached, just when I was considering contacting the police, a staggering David returned home. He seemed clearly drunk. "I'm home, hiccup." I rushed to the entrance in concern and found David lying on the hallway floor. "What happened? Are you okay?" Hearing my voice, he responded angrily, "Too loud, go away." He then staggered towards the dining room. When I tried to support him, he forcefully shook off my hand. "Don't touch me. Don't come near me with that ugly face. To think you're my wife." In his drunken state, he spat out those words and then just lay down right there. Those words were beyond shocking. Why? Why can't he consider others' feelings? His remarks hurt me deeply, and I was filled with thoughts of maybe he no longer sees me as family. Tears welled up in my eyes. I put so much effort into cooking, it was all for nothing. With that thought, I had my dinner alone and enveloped in loneliness. The next morning, David woke up as if nothing had happened. My head hurts. I guess I drank too much. But why did you leave me in the hallway? You chose to lie down there, David. It's not my fault. Aren't you my wife? At least take care of me when I'm drunk. David's words made me wonder why he always blames me right away. If you weren't going to eat at home, you could have at least let me know. I had prepared a nice meal, and I called you multiple times. Why didn't you answer? Then David replied nonchalantly, my drinking party from the day before got rescheduled to yesterday. Do I have to report everything? Besides, you know how hard it is to pick up the phone during a gathering. Think about my situation. With every word David said, my heart got colder and my expectations of him diminished. That way, I won't feel hurt or disappointed anymore. This thought lingered in my mind that I'm taking a break and going back to my parents' home tomorrow. Being with you lately feels unpleasant and boring. Seeing David's attitude of looking down on me made me increasingly consider the option of divorce. Our baby is due soon, and my heart races in anticipation. Even though I've heard stories about the pains of labor from friends, my excitement to meet the new life inside me overshadows those concerns. The neighbors often encourage me with words like, it's just a little while longer, which brightens my mood. Hey, want to go on a family trip soon after David returned home? He made a surprising suggestion. Really? But I'm talking about a family trip. My mom and dad want to join. I was taken aback. Why would parents make such a proposal? Tensions exist between me and David's parents whenever there's an issue concerning David. They tend to blame me, like the previous phone call incident. However, the sudden idea of a trip left me doubtful. I'm about to give birth soon, and traveling a long distance might be a bit risky. David replied, how many times do I have to tell you? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're sick. My parents are thoughtfully inviting us. But what if something happens? It'll be fine. Everything's already decided. We'll go for 2 nights and 3 days next week. What? Next week is my due date. That's a bit. Just do as you're told. Prepare for the trip. End of discussion. David just expressed his opinion and then left the room. I'm in trouble now, I thought to myself. The next day, I sought advice from a close friend and explained the situation. She was concerned and said, that's a bit too much. While I was contemplating how to decline the offer, the day of the trip suddenly arrived. Actually, I'm not feeling well today. I'm worried about the baby, so I'm going to rest at home. I tried to use that as an excuse, but David didn't seem convinced. Anyway, you can just rest in the car, and you'll be fine, right? Come on, bring the luggage. We're heading to my parents' house, so hurry up. As we headed to the car, I was worried and asked, is this really okay? After loading our luggage into the car and sitting in the passenger seat, I felt warmth at my feet. Looking down, I noticed water spreading around them. Oh my water broke. I immediately informed David. David, I think my water just broke. Please take me to the hospital quickly. Taken aback by the situation, David exclaimed, are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. We need to go to the hospital now. The baby might be coming. While trying to clean up the water with a towel in the car, David suddenly opened the passenger door. David, what are you doing? We need to go to the hospital. Get out, you're going to make a mess in the car. I was in complete shock. What are you saying? I said get out. I need to clean the car. Then David forcefully pulled me out of the car. In this unbelievable situation, David said, I can't believe this. We were supposed to be on a family trip. Just go to the hospital by yourself. I was too shocked to say anything as I called out to David. Wait, how can you leave me here like this? He drove away, leaving me behind. Feeling overwhelmed, I quickly dialed for an ambulance. When someone approached, asking, Lisa, are you okay? It was Sarah, looking concerned. Sarah immediately recognized my predicament and arranged for a special taxi, comforting me throughout. Grateful for her kindness, tears streamed down my face. Soon after, I safely arrived at the hospital, thanks to Sarah's help. On the way, she held my hand and cheered me up, staying by my side until I was taken to my room. While being transferred, I made a silent vow. I will make him pay for this. Even as labor pains grew, Sarah kept holding my hand. Furthermore, she contacted my parents, who soon arrived at the hospital and looked deeply concerned. Sarah whispered to them, "There's something I want to discuss." The three then left the room. As the labor pains intensified, my smartphone vibrated from a corner of the room. "Who is it?" I asked, and my parents responded with David's name. They looked displeased, but I took the call anyway. As soon as I answered, I heard a panicky David, "Help me." However, I was in no state or mood to converse with him and promptly ended the call. Despite my parents turning off my phone, David continued to send messages. As labor intensified, I was finally moved to the delivery room. After enduring the pain for some time, I finally heard my baby's cries. Exhausted, I saw my parents and Sarah standing before me with warm smiles. Relieved, I closed my eyes and rested. When I woke up after a few hours of sleep, I found myself lying in the hospital bed. Rubbing my eyes, I noticed my parents sitting next to me, their faces filled with concern. "Are you okay?" My mother asked gently, still feeling the weight of exhaustion. I couldn't muster the energy to sit up, while my father looked teary-eyed. My mother consoled him, saying, "The postpartum period can be exhausting." Witnessing this heartwarming scene, a smile formed on my face. "How's the baby?" I inquired. My parents informed me that the baby was undergoing some tests but would be back in the room soon. However, I noticed Sarah wasn't present. Responding to my unspoken question, my mother remarked, "Sarah left a little while ago." Thinking about how things might have turned out had Sarah not been there, a feeling of gratitude settled over me. I made a promise with my parents that after being discharged, I would visit Sarah to express my gratitude. Turning on my smartphone to inform my friends about the birth, I was met with an overwhelming number of missed calls, mostly from David. The sheer number left me momentarily stunned, but I felt no hope or expectation from his calls. So I closed the notifications without hesitation. One of my friends visited the hospital room to congratulate me on the birth. As she rejoiced and extended her genuine wishes, I opened up about the recent incidents with David. After hearing the story, she expressed both shock and anger, half-jokingly saying she'd like to punish him a bit. But she also emphasized that my health and rest were paramount, chatted with me for a while, and then left. My parents, already briefed by Sarah about the whole episode, asked, "What are you planning to do next?" I shared my thoughts about my relationship with David and told my parents I'm considering divorce. They respected my decision and provided their support. Upon my discharge, I planned to stay at my parents' house, where they had prepared a room for me. Meanwhile, David seemed to have visited the hospital, but as I had informed the hospital staff that I didn't wish to see him, he wasn't allowed in. The next day, Sarah came to my hospital room holding a fruit basket. "Sarah, you came!" I exclaimed with delight. "You seem to be recovering well, but remember not to overexert yourself. Postpartum fatigue can be quite profound," she advised. Feeling comforted by Sarah's words, I sighed with relief, taking the fruit basket from her. "Sarah, thank you so much for helping me. I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there." I expressed my deep gratitude as I bowed deeply. Sarah gently laughed, saying, "What's most important is that both you and the baby are healthy. I just want a small hand. Regardless, I'm forever grateful. Once things settle down, I'll come over to thank you properly." Sarah laughed warmly in response. "You know, I've talked to my husband about what happened. He seemed quite furious." From her words, I could somewhat deduce David's situation. "Sarah, I'm truly sorry for dragging you into this mess," I admitted. "Don't worry. Remember who you owe for being able to work at your current company. This incident is truly hard to forgive." At that moment, I heard a stern tone in Sarah's voice for the first time. Sarah was actually the wife of the CEO at the company where my husband worked. When we first moved to this residential area, I had no idea about this fact. However, as we frequently encountered each other at the local supermarket, shops, and occasionally at convenience stores, we gradually became closer. We even began to enjoy tea together, and during these sessions, I learned about the nature of her husband's job. On the other hand, my husband was completely unaware of this background. This was because he didn't even accompany me for our initial neighborhood greetings and didn't prefer interacting with our neighbors. Sarah had previously told me gently, "I don't want to cause any trouble, so don't tell your husband," and I had respected that request. Knowing that I was pregnant and still being forced to endure my husband's unreasonable behavior, Sarah had several times suggested, "Should I talk to my husband about this?" However, I had always declined, not wanting to trouble her. But with this recent incident, perhaps even Sarah reached her limit. That's why my husband kept calling Sarah. "I really can't thank you enough for everything." Sarah's strong words made me realize how fortunate I was to have someone who'd go to such lengths for me. I couldn't help but tear up. Seeing my reaction, Sarah once again gave me a warm smile. "Lisa, you're a dear friend to me. I can't just stand by and watch when something like this happens to a friend." Our conversation was filled with heartfelt smiles. However, my husband's messages didn't stop despite the barrage of notifications. Online, I consciously ignored them all. Thinking about the divorce made my mind clear, and all I wanted was to think about how to live my life with my baby. As I was preparing to leave the hospital, a close friend visited my room, handing me her smartphone and saying, "I want you to see this." Displayed on her phone was a post that had become a major topic on a certain social media platform. When I asked what it was about, she informed me that she had posted about my husband's recent actions on social media. My friend had a significant influence on social media with a massive follower count. One day, she received a reply to one of her posts. The follower who replied had, by chance, captured a video of the scene where I was yelled at by my husband after being let out of the car. The follower, wanting to protect my privacy, blurred my face in the video, and, with my friend's permission, shared it online. The video spread like wildfire, and as a result, personal details about my husband and even his company were identified. Currently, my husband seems to be under a barrage of criticism online. What? I had no idea it had escalated to this level. My friend, smiling gently, remarked. "Well, they brought it upon themselves, didn't they? My husband's actions and their consequences were all a result of choices he made." Furthermore, when one of my husband's friends confronted him about the incident, he reportedly excused himself, saying, "I had a prior travel commitment with my parents that day, so I had no choice." Because of this statement, not only my husband, but also his parents began to face criticism online. The story spread even in the vicinity of my in-laws' home, and there seemed to be various topics related to my husband's parents circulating on social media. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. When I checked the screen, it was a call from my mother-in-law. "That's for my mother-in-law." My friend, eyeing the screen of my phone with interest, suggested, "Why don't you pick up and give her a piece of your mind?" However, I was so fed up that I felt no words to do so and decided to ignore it. Before I knew it, the missed calls log was filled with names of my husband, father-in-law, and mother-in-law. Ever since the incident was highlighted on social media, even the hospital staff seemed to be aware of my situation and started offering genuine support. Whether my husband or in-laws came to the hospital or called multiple times, the hospital staff didn't allow any contact with me. As my discharge date approached, I had one pressing worry: whether my husband and in-laws might be lurking outside the hospital. My parents reassured me, saying, "You have nothing to worry about." But the thought of my precious baby being in danger left me anxious. However, that concern was quickly dispelled on the day of my discharge, as my parents were helping me with my belongings. I heard my husband's voice shouting, "Lisa," followed by the loud voices of my in-laws. Suddenly, men in black suits surrounded me, forming a protective barrier. As I tried to understand what was happening, one of the men approached me, gently opening the car door and said, "Don't worry, we're here on Sir's request to protect you." It seemed my parents were already aware of this, as my mom said, smiling, "Didn't I tell you there's nothing to worry about?" Believing her words, I felt relieved and smoothly got into the car. All the while, my husband and in-laws, overwhelmed by the presence of the bodyguards, couldn't come any closer. I can't find the words to express how grateful I am for Sarah supporting me like this. The only thing occupying my mind was how to reciprocate Sarah's kindness. My parents felt the same, saying in unison, "We have to find a way to show our gratitude to Sarah." Although my new life began smoothly and pleasant days continued, the contacts from my husband and in-laws never ceased. I mailed them the divorce papers, but there wasn't even a hint of acceptance. One day, my in-laws called our home. It seems my father answered, and they addressed him with the attitude of, "She became a part of our family, so no matter how she's treated, she shouldn't complain." When my father angrily retorted to their statement, it seems they were taken aback and quickly hung up. While discussing how to handle this with my parents, I decided that seeking professional assistance was the best course of action and resolved to consult a lawyer. Coincidentally, my father was acquainted with a lawyer, and when we explained our situation, he graciously promised to help. I informed the lawyer about the video circulating on social media and detailed past events. When the lawyer reached out on our behalf, my husband was initially taken aback. However, over time, he became defiant. "We'll solve marital issues ourselves. We don't need a lawyer," he argued in a fled tone. However, the lawyer calmly responded, "I'm acting upon Lisa's request. Any future communication should be directed to me. It's up to Lisa, my client, to decide whether or not she wants to involve a lawyer." My husband was at a loss for words, though initially refusing to divorce. When mediation and the possibility of a court case were suggested, the word court seemed to shake him, and he reluctantly agreed to the divorce. I have no interest in the child and have no intention of seeing them in the future, so I don't see why I should pay child support. As for property distribution, I did nothing wrong, he claimed irrationally. The lawyer calmly explained from a legal perspective, but my husband still seemed unconvinced. "In that case, it seems we'll meet in court," the lawyer suggested. My in-laws, who were listening nearby, appeared to panic and immediately agreed. When I was informed of this by the lawyer, I was shocked that I had ever married such a man. I had been communicating with Sarah since returning to my parents' home, and when I told her about the recent events, she playfully and gleefully suggested, "How about seizing your ex-husband's retirement pay? Garnishment is one way, right?" Feeling overwhelmed by Sarah's astuteness, a while later, I was contacted by the lawyer who conveyed that my husband wished to apologize in person. Wanting a satisfactory conclusion, I agreed to converse over the phone under the supervision of the lawyer. The day of the scheduled call arrived. On that day, I was accompanied by my parents and the lawyer. From the other end of the line, I heard, "Finally, you answer. Apologize now, and I'll forgive you. So come back home. Let's be a couple again. The house is a mess. I might lose my job, and everyone's looking at me coldly. All of this is your fault, so take responsibility." He continued to bombard me with accusations. Without being overwhelmed, I calmly chose how to react. When he said, "See, you can't even reply properly, truly a woman with no redeeming qualities," I finally responded, "Just so you know, this conversation is being recorded. I'll keep it as evidence. Goodbye." Hearing this, my husband's voice revealed his shock. "Wait, you recorded it? That's not fair, right? I was joking. I'm sorry. I can't live without you. Let's start over. We truly loved each other, right? I promise I'll try harder from now on." After hearing those words, I immediately hung up the phone. With the recorded data in hand, I handed it to the lawyer and asked, "Can you utilize this audio as evidence?" Shaking his head in disbelief, the lawyer remarked, "He truly is an incorrigible man." My parents, feeling the same as me, had firmly decided to sever ties with him. Seeing his behavior filled them more with astonishment and disappointment than anger. At some point, I realized I was slightly enjoying this drama, clinging to the little devilish side of me that emerged. The divorce procedures with my husband concluded smoothly. Both the property distribution and child support agreements went forward without a hitch, and the turmoil began to subside. Due to the information Sarah shared with her husband, the president of my ex-husband's company, he was promptly disciplined. The president, known for his family-oriented values, believed that an employee who couldn't protect his family couldn't be trusted by the company. David lost his job, couldn't make housing loan payments, and returned to his parents' home. His reputation was tarnished by the viral video, and he struggled to find stable employment, barely making ends meet with short-term part-time jobs. Rumors spread about his parents too, and according to reports from Sir's friends in the neighborhood, they seemed to live in perpetual unease. The cold societal judgment they faced, which exceeded my expectations, made me think that, surprisingly, this ostracization might be harder for them than any legal repercussions. With most matters settled and my health recovering, my parents, my baby, and I visited Sarah's home to express our gratitude. Both Sarah and her husband seemed genuinely happy and doted on my baby, making us feel warm and welcomed. After that, Sarah and my mother became close friends. Similarly, Sarah's husband and my father got along very well, and our families grew close. Furthermore, Sarah and her husband's son was around my age, and to everyone's surprise, our relationship began to develop in an unexpected direction. A few years later, the idea that I might actually become a part of Sir family was something no one could have ever predicted. Life truly is full of surprises. Please ensure the loan repayment, will you? While I was at work, an unexpected email popped up. Upon hastily reaching out to him, Greg calmly began to explain, "Oh, sorry about that. I've fallen for someone else and decided to start a new life with her." Furthermore, he revealed his plan to take the luxury car recently purchased in my name with a loan. Despite my attempts to dissuade him, my husband ignored me, abruptly ended the call, and became unreachable. In the end, Greg disappeared with his mistress, leaving behind a substantial debt. As a mother to our 10-year-old son, I never envisioned such an unfair situation. I found myself at a loss, unsure of what to do, my mind going blank. At 35 years old, my name is Hannah, and my husband Greg is the same age. We were a family of 3, including our intelligent 10-year-old son Ryan. Ryan had displayed remarkable intelligence from a young age, reading papers on the computer and seeking my opinion on complex topics. In contrast, Greg was unstable, never holding down a steady job. Despite my full-time job and concerns about our future, Greg had recently maintained a stable income for 3 years. Lately, Greg spoke of making memories as a family, leading us to decide on buying a $35,000 campervan. However, due to Greg's inability to pass the finance company's loan review, I ended up taking the loan for the car. On the eagerly awaited delivery day of the campervan, I received an abrupt email from Greg stating he would graciously take the delivered van since the loan was in my name, and I would handle the repayments. Confused, I called my husband immediately, only to hear him confess, "Well, I've fallen in love with another woman and decided to date her. I intended it to be just a fling, but it turned serious, so I'm thinking of starting over my life with her. Bye." He mentioned the divorce papers we had discussed during a previous fight, declared he would file them, and unilaterally ended the call. This exchange marked the first time I realized I had been betrayed by Greg, a shocking blow. Subsequent attempts to contact him yielded no response. When I returned home from work and checked the drawer where the divorce papers should have been, they were already gone, leaving me burdened with a significant debt from a $35,000 car loan. Despite my repeated attempts to reach out to my husband through emails and calls, I never received a reply. Ryan, noticing my unusual behavior, came to check on me with concern after dinner. "Mom, what's wrong? You haven't been eating much lately. Are you okay?" "Yeah, maybe. I'm just tired. When people lie, they look up to the right. Lying is bad. I've noticed Dad hasn't been home for 3 days. Did something happen between you two? Startled by Ryan's sharp words, I took a deep breath to calm myself. Feeling that I could no longer hide the truth, I decided to tell Ryan everything. I see. It's just like Dad to do something like that. Aren't you sad? No. I kind of understood from how things were going. Ryan, seemingly foreseeing the future, appeared unconcerned about our parents' divorce. But I knew he must feel sad about it in his heart. While silently apologizing to Ryan in my mind, I worked desperately, trying not to think about the dreadful events. However, my body was honest, and gradually my health deteriorated. There was a training session planned at work that day, but I couldn't stand up and ended up squatting down. Sorry, I can't stand up right now. I need to take a break. I heard my colleagues' voices full of concern, but I couldn't respond and collapsed. When I regained consciousness, I found myself in a hospital room. I received a diagnosis from the doctor that I needed detailed examinations, and I was admitted to the hospital. Hannah thought, I feel so pathetic. It's supposed to be just emotional stress. Looking at the IV drip in my arm and the white ceiling of the hospital room, tears naturally started to flow. At that moment, Ryan, who is usually calm, rushed into the room with an extremely worried look, prompting me to quickly wipe away my tears. Mom, what happened? Is it serious? You're not going to die, right? Of course not. I wouldn't leave my dear son alone. That's good, really. I was called by the school teacher and told that you were taken to the hospital. I was so shocked. My heart nearly stopped. Ryan is usually mature for his age, but he's still only 10. I felt a strong resolve to get better for his sake, but my condition was worse than I thought, and I was diagnosed with a serious illness. The doctor advised, you should have surgery as soon as possible. Please make a decision quickly, following the doctor's advice. I underwent surgery, and by the time I was discharged, it had been a month since Greg had left. When I returned home and opened the mailbox, I found a demand letter for the car loan payment. Hannah thought the repayment should have been automatically deducted from my account. In panic, I checked the account balance with my cash card, and the balance, originally $20,000, was now only $33.90. Hannah thought, Greg did this. I want to ask him to return the money, but I can't contact him. What should I do? Since I don't have the camper van, I can't sell it. After Greg left, everything seemed to be going in a bad direction, and my mood sank deeper. Seeing me saddened by my series of misfortunes, Ryan put his hand on my forehead. You look pale. Are you feeling sick again? You don't seem to have a fever, though. I'm fine physically, but you see, your father not only took the car, but also all the money we had saved. I can't work yet due to my physical condition, and now we have no money. I'm at a loss. I see. Then I'll deliver newspapers, and I'll search the internet to see if there's any work I can do. Encouraged by my 10-year-old son, I told myself that it wasn't the time to be down. Sorry for worrying you. I can't afford to be weak. I'll change my mindset and try to do whatever I can, I said, smiling at him. Ryan also smiled back and then said something unexpected. Let's plan how to get the car back from Dad. How can we do that? The camper van is in your name, right? Yes, but what about it? Then maybe we can? Ryan suggested an idea that I couldn't even imagine. I had never thought such an idea could exist. Also, I have no idea where your father is. Then let's check on my phone. A month ago, once when we went hiking as a family, surprisingly, Ryan, who is usually very reliable, got lost. At that time, we bought a kid's cell phone on Ryan's suggestion and installed a GPS app on it, which both Greg and I could access. With this app, I can see where Dad is in real time, and he's been moving around a lot. Oh, is that so? But what if we find him, and he just says something vague and escapes again? As I pondered this, Ryan smiled and made an intriguing suggestion. Don't worry, I've already taken precautions. What did you just say? To my astonishment, Ryan had acted independently while I was in the hospital, achieving something unbelievable. I thought, I can't believe such a smart child came from me. Understanding Ryan's words, I was simply amazed. He had even caught wind of Greg's mistress. All right, let's teach Dad who betrayed us a lesson. Okay, let's start the plan right away. Together, my son and I prepared for that moment. Hannah thought, with Ryan by my side, I'm invincible. Bring it on, anywhere, anytime. 3 days later, my phone rang. Ah, it's me. Please, I need your help. Oh, who might this be? Don't play dumb. It's your husband. Obviously, I'm being questioned by the police about you. At this rate, they might ask me to come to the police station voluntarily. Help me out. Oh, is that so? Just wait a moment then. I immediately went with my son to where Greg was, and to my surprise, it was a forest park near our house where camping was possible. Greg was being questioned by the police in front of his car, looking bewildered. Feeling pathetic, I sighed and told the police we needed to have a talk as a couple and asked them to leave for a while. At that time, Greg seemed uncomfortable being watched by the people around us and urged Ryan and me to get into the car. Inside the car, Greg's mistress was sitting cross-legged, glaring at us, but that was no longer important. Sorry about that. Thanks for coming. But why did the police suddenly show up at my place? I don't get it. That's because I filed a report about the missing camper van. What? Why would you do that? It's obvious, isn't it? My car was stolen. Greg, foolishly thinking that actions between spouses can't be criminal, was saying nonsensical things. But the world isn't that naive, you know. You filed for divorce, remember? Forgot? So we are strangers now, and you're driving a stranger's car without permission. That's a crime. Ryan figured all this out. Typical, sharp as ever, that kid. But I didn't steal the car. I just borrowed it for a bit. Oh, is that so? Well, I'd like to use my car now. So could you return it? That would be really helpful. As I reached out my hand, asking Greg to return the keys, he reluctantly handed them over after confirming it was returned. Ryan quietly started talking. Hey, why did you abandon your family and choose to play around with this woman? Caught off guard by his son's unexpected question, Greg was flustered and awkwardly scratched his head. Seeing this, Greg's mistress chuckled smugly and started talking. It's because I'm more attractive than your mother. Look at me, you can see it, right? He fell head over heels for me and decided to leave his family. Quiet. I didn't ask you, old lady. Dad, you answer. Mandy was silenced by Ryan's stern tone, but Greg remained quiet. If you can't explain, that's fine. I'll just have the police come back and arrest you. Wait, hold on. Okay, I'll talk. Mandy, it turns out, joined Greg's company 3 months ago. They were attracted to each other and became involved at the welcome party for new employees. Later, it was discovered that Mandy was pregnant, and Greg decided to start a new life with her, leaving us behind. Why did you take the camper van? I quit my job and thought about selling the car for money. But it seems like you were using it quite a bit, weren't you? I thought it was a waste to sell it right away, so we decided to go on a trip. Wait, how do you know all this? Remember when Ryan got lost? After that, as a precaution, we bought him a kid's cell phone and installed a GPS app. Did you forget? We installed it on your phone too, so I knew where you were all this time. By the way, I later found out from Ryan that he had pretended to get lost during our family hike because he wanted a cell phone. I was amazed at Ryan's ability to think and act so strategically. I suspected something was off with Dad, so I came up with this plan to monitor his actions. You really are a terrifying child. I will never become an adult like you, Dad, who betrays important people without a second thought. Greg, faced with the hard truth Ryan told, was a pitiful adult unable to offer any rebuttal. In contrast, seeing Ryan, only 10 but able to think and speak his mind firmly, gave me a sense of strength as a mother. I felt I couldn't lose, especially in settling things properly. Also, return the $20,000 you withdrew from my account right now. That was our joint property as a couple. I don't have to return it. No, it's not that. The money was what I saved little by little since I was single after all. You always quit your jobs midway, so we hardly ever saved money together, did we? I was appalled to hear that the $20,000 had been squandered by Greg and his mistress. It was the moment I felt relieved about divorcing him. So that's how it is. But if you stole and used the car and my money, that's going to be a serious crime. What? I just sent the police away, so it's not their business anymore, right? I only said we would talk. I have no intention of withdrawing the complaint. I must add the theft of my money to the report. Mom, should I call the police now? I can do it with just one button on my phone. Mandy, Greg's mistress, had been watching our conversation but quickly tried to get out of the camper van. At that moment, she let out a scream that echoed around. The reason was that outside the car door, Mandy's parents were standing there, faces red with anger, about to explode in fury. Startled, she stepped back as her parents yelled at her. "Ah, I'm sorry. Don't be so angry. But why are you here, Mom and Dad? I called your parents beforehand." "What? Why?" The truth was, during my hospital stay, Ryan had visited Greg's office and tearfully told them, "My dad left the house with a woman we don't know, and my mom collapsed." Seeing Ryan's sorrowful and frail state, the people at Greg's office suspected Mandy, who had left the company with Greg, and gave Ryan her parents' address. Greg and Mandy had been overly friendly at the office, and there were photos showing them together at the welcome party for new employees, looking like a couple. After learning from the office people that you commuted from your parents' house, Mandy's parents were standing there, faces red with anger. "I went there with your photo, and your parents came out when I visited. Then I told them everything that had happened. So today, I contacted Mandy's parents and asked them to wait nearby for a while." "How could you do this to me? The worst. I don't want to hear that from you." That's my line. "By the way, your stomach seems quite big. When is the baby due?" "In 3 months." "What? Wait a minute. That doesn't add up with when you met my husband. You two met only 3 months ago, right? What's going on? It's not time for the baby to be born yet." Greg, hearing this for the first time, stared at Mandy, eyes wide. "Wait, what does that mean? Are you stupid? Don't you get it? It takes about 9 months from conception to birth, which means the child she's carrying isn't yours. You're so foolish." "What do you mean, Mandy? Have you been deceiving me?" "Ah, I almost got away with it. Can't help it now that I'm caught." "You're so naive. You can't see through lies at all." "Really, a fool." "Don't mock me. My whole life is ruined because of you." "What were you thinking?" Greg and Mandy started an ugly argument, but nobody intervened, letting them have it out. Meanwhile, we contacted the police again to explain the situation. As it began to get dark, the forest park was brightly lit by the red lights of the police cars. "No, really, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I'm sorry. I'll work hard and never cheat again, so please just don't arrest me, Dad." People don't change that easily, especially lazy people like you. Exactly, Ryan's right. I can't trust you at all. Reflect on your actions and pay for your crimes at the police station. If I get arrested, I won't be able to pay back the money. Is that okay with you? I don't mind. Pay me back after you've atoned for your sins. Take your time. Don't worry. I've already found you a place to work. Let's see, there's Ryan's child support plus the $220,000 you stole from me. I'm not sure how much it will all add up to, but you'll work and pay it all back. I had one last thing to say to Mandy the mistress. You might think you're just an onlooker, but don't forget you're an accomplice to Greg's theft. Be prepared for that. When I told them that Mandy would have to pay if Greg couldn't return the stolen money, she shivered in fear. Mandy asked her parents for help, but they refused, saying, "We disown a daughter who causes trouble for others." Thus, Greg and Mandy were taken away in a police car together. Thanks to Ryan's smart strategy, we were able to punish Greg and his mistress, Mandy. Though they were released from detention soon after, they faced a hefty payment to me. Through a lawyer, I claimed $20,000 in damages. Additionally, I made Greg agree to pay $500 a month in child support for Ryan. I introduced Greg to a subcontracting factory of the company I work for. The support and other charges I claimed from Greg would be deducted from his salary and paid into my account. I also sold the camper van and was freed from the auto loan. Since then, my health has improved remarkably, and I am now energetically committed to my job. Ryan has been actively helping with household chores and errands. I want to keep moving forward strongly so that Ryan can pursue the path he loves without giving up. This is where my parents live, Mark declared suddenly upon his visit. Behind him, his in-laws nodded happily. I found myself in the middle of an online meeting and quickly apologized to the other party before ending the call. Irritated, I turned my gaze towards the door. "Why did you come all of a sudden?" I asked them, maintaining my composure. My father-in-law proudly replied, "We'll pay off the mortgage, so please leave." It was hard to suppress a laugh at his statement. My mother-in-law had never worked, and my father-in-law was just staying at home without any employment. Yet Mark was completely in favor of his parents' opinion. Disappointed by his stance, I considered divorce. "I leave," I quickly replied, to the surprise of all three of them. "The mortgage of the house is $5,000 per month." With an inward smile, I began to pack seriously. Luckily, I had a business trip scheduled for a week starting for the next day. With my suitcase and bank book ready, I headed to the entrance. "Goodbye," I said as I left the house. First, I'd start by transferring the house's title to Mark. I felt excited thinking about my future plans. My name is Shyle Owen. I am 47 years old and work as a web designer. I went independent 5 years ago and have been fortunate enough to receive many project checks. As a result, I've earned more than 5 times my previous salary and now live on the top floor of a high-rise condo. I met Mark, my husband, 3 years ago through Ashley, my former boss, and his cousin. He's kind and honest, but had trouble maintaining relationships, so he had been single for a long time. Around that time, my business was doing well, and I bought the top floor of a high-rise condo, doubling as an office. I wasn't planning on marrying, but Ashley strongly suggested I meet Mark. When I met him, he was very gentle and attractive, looking much younger than his actual age. We started dating and got engaged within 6 months. My parents had already passed away, and my only relative was my brother. So my brother and his wife also attended the family meeting. From Mark's side, his parents and cousin Ashley came. The meeting went smoothly overall. However, my sister-in-law's comment, "This seems stiff," left me puzzled. I never imagined her words would become a reality. After marrying, Mark moved into my house, and we started our life together. His workplace was harsh, requiring him to leave early in the morning and return home past midnight. Despite this, his salary was only a quarter of mine. I suggested to Mark, who was exhausted and went to sleep immediately every day, "It's bad for your health. Why don't you look for another job?" However, he reprimanded me with a face full of anger. "Are you saying I should quit my job? Are you looking down on me because I earn less?" I was surprised by Mark's strong reaction, as we had never argued before. Feeling uncomfortable about unintentionally disrespecting his job, I decided to apologize sincerely. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just worried about your health." Mark quickly calmed down and apologized. Our first argument ended swiftly. However, it became difficult to suggest a job change afterward. Mark's return time got even later, and he eventually spent half the week at the office. While I was concerned about his health, he seemed to enjoy his job. So I decided to support him as much as I could, creating a relaxing environment whenever he returned home. "Hey, about my dad's medical expenses, could we increase the remittance a bit?" Mark suggested this when his father was in the hospital with back pain. Sighing inwardly at his request in his father's hospital room, I didn't hesitate to help my in-laws, as I had no parents of my own. Our household depended on my income, with Mark contributing a part of his salary to his parents. His salary wasn't low for a man in his 40s, but the exact amount he kept for himself was unclear. However, it was evident he was providing enough for his parents not to struggle. I couldn't agree when he insisted on increasing the remittance because it was possible only due to my income. Yet it was hard to refuse in front of his parents. "Mark, you're really kind. Thank you so much. It's a big help," they said, looking at me and Mark under their pressure. I reluctantly agreed to increase the remittance. Afterward, my in-laws started demanding money for various reasons, not just the remittance. I wanted to refuse, but they knew I would say no, so they approached Mark instead. Especially weak to his mother's requests, Mark often decided to increase the remittance whenever she asked. On the day his father returned from the hospital, after sending my in-laws off in a taxi, Mark and I returned home, only to find surprisingly that his parents, who were supposed to have gone home, were waiting outside our house. It's tough for Dad to climb our stairs, so I thought we'd take care of him here until his back is fully healed. "What? You can't just spring that on me." My surprised reaction made my mother-in-law frown. My father-in-law stood in front of the door as if to say, "Let us in quickly, Mark." "That's okay, right?" Mark replied, and I stared at him in shock. He avoided my gaze from his reaction. As I observed the situation, it became apparent that Mark and his parents had likely already discussed their plans. "Fine, you can stay here until you're fully recovered." I reluctantly relented, ushering my in-laws inside. They surveyed the house and settled onto the living room sofa. "Look at this place, so nice." "Our house is 50 years old and falling apart," remarked my father-in-law. "Yeah, it's really showing its age," agreed my mother-in-law. Mark nodded along, indicating their intention to stay for an extended period. Admittedly, since I had been providing them with financial support, having them here might ease the burden. However, financial considerations aside, it didn't mean I welcomed the idea of cohabiting. Renovating old houses is trendy these days. "How about considering that, Mark?" I suggested. "Yeah, maybe," Mark replied vaguely. 2 years into our marriage, despite being in the supposed honeymoon phase, Mark and I hardly spent time together. We hadn't even gone on a honeymoon. This place served as both my home and office. It was manageable when Mark was out for work, but with my in-laws around all day, it complicated things. If we were to live together, I'd rather move into their house and reserve this place solely as an office. Thanks to my initial resistance, the topic of cohabitation wasn't brought up again by my in-laws. However, even months after my father-in-law's discharge from the hospital, my mother-in-law showed no sign of taking him back. Their belongings started to overflow from the guest room into the living room. "Mark, your dad seems perfectly healthy now. He even went bowling today. Maybe it's time for them to go home," I suggested. "What are you saying? Sending my dad back with his bad back is cruel. What if it gets worse?" Mark raised his voice, leaving me silent. It seemed that Mark believed raising his voice would compel compliance. He frequently asserted his opinions loudly, and opposing him often resulted in my mother-in-law siding with him, putting me at a disadvantage. This dynamic persisted for 2 years. During this time, I took care of all the housework while my in-laws frequently went out to enjoy themselves. Despite my father-in-law's back being fully healed, there were no signs of them returning home. "Sorry, I have a meeting at 1:00 p.m. today, so I'll eat lunch in my room, okay?" I informed them as I placed lunch on the table. "Understood, but leave the dishes for later," my mother-in-law replied without looking up. As the clock struck 1:00 p.m., my online meeting commenced. However, about 10 minutes in, the door burst open, and Mark declared, "This is where me and my parents live." My in-laws nodded behind him. I swiftly apologized to the meeting participants and ended the call, inwardly frustrated. "I told you I had a meeting at 1:00 p.m., I grumbled as I headed towards the door. "Why are you doing this all of a sudden?" I asked calmly, only to be met with my father-in-law's smug reply, "We'll pay the mortgage so you can leave." Suppressing a laugh at his audacity, I simply replied, "All right, I'll leave," surprising all three of them. With the mortgage at $5,000 per month, I couldn't help but smile inwardly at the prospect of moving forward with my plans. I approached the task with a solemn expression, aware of the serious decision I was making. Fortunately, a week-long business trip awaited me starting the next day. Armed with a meticulously packed suitcase and my bank book, I headed for the exit. "Goodbye," I uttered, bidding farewell to the home that had become a source of contention. The first order of business was transferring the house title to Mark. Brimming with excitement about the impending changes, I checked into a hotel and promptly contacted a real estate agent to initiate the house transfer, encompassing the mortgage. The success of the transfer rested on Mark's ability to handle the mortgage. If he couldn't manage it, the options were a lump sum payment or selling the house. Accepting this reality, I directed the agent to find me a new home and office. My work could be conducted remotely, but a dedicated office space was crucial for calm client discussions. The agent identified a suitable location approximately 40 minutes from my previous residence, complete with top-notch security. After a visit and quick decision, I bought the luxurious apartment, considering it a well-deserved reward for my efforts. In the interim period before the move, I stayed in temporary accommodation. Once all the necessary documents were prepared, I delegated the packing and moving process to a professional moving company. During the move, my in-laws and Mark assisted while exchanging unpleasant remarks about me. One of the movers even commented, "You have a difficult family," causing a flush of embarrassment. A week after settling into my new abode, I received a call from Mark. His anxious inquiry about changing the mortgage indicated he was just grasping the situation. His father's shouts in the background urged me to return quickly. Despite the divorce being the plan, Mark seemed taken aback. "But we're getting a divorce, right? It's unfair for me to pay the mortgage if you're the ones living there," he protested. However, I couldn't accept his denial after they had explicitly told me to leave the house. I played back our conversation from that day, caught on tape during a web meeting. Mark was startled by my explanation, having forgotten about my practice of recording meetings for documentation purposes. Undeterred, I informed him about the impending mortgage repayments, subject to a credit check. Mark, seemingly unaware of the details, asked about the monthly amount, leading to my laughter. Despite my prior disclosures and document presentations, Mark seemed oblivious to the $5,000 monthly mortgage. Stunned, he remained speechless, prompting his mother to intervene. She questioned the amount and proceeded to assert that Mark's salary could handle it. Unbeknownst to his parents, Mark hadn't disclosed his actual salary, allowing his mother to confidently declare that they wouldn't assist me any longer. In response, I burst into laughter, provoking her anger. Undeterred, I revealed the actual mortgage amount, $4,000. "What? The mortgage is Mark's monthly salary. That's absurd." My words left her shocked and frozen for a moment, but then she burst into laughter. "That's impossible. Mark has been sending us $4,000 every month. If his salary is really $4,000, he would have been sending us all of it. Stop lying," she exclaimed, refusing to believe me. Remaining calm, I pointed her towards the evidence. "Look at the shelf right by the entrance of the living room. You'll find Mark's salary slips there. If you doubt it, check for yourself." She dismissed my explanation, accusing me of lying, and headed to the indicated shelf. In the background, I could hear Mark trying to stop her. Soon, her voice of surprise came through the phone. "What? There's not even $4,000 here, Mark. What's the meaning of this?" Mark's actual salary turned out to be even lower than I knew, and I could hear his in-laws questioning him in the background. "You might not hear me, but just so you know, the house mortgage is $5,000 a month. Take care," I declared as loudly as possible. Whether they heard me or not, I ended the call. Mark called again several times later, but I ignored them all. "Let's discuss this through a lawyer from now on," I texted him, and then ignored any further communication. The lawyer I hired dealt with frequent contacts in the following days, which soon quieted down. I promptly filed for compensation through my lawyer. After a while, a response came through my lawyer, and I couldn't help but laugh at its contents. It seemed to be co-authored by a team of liars from Mark's side. Their claims were laughable. The allegations by Shelley are false, and the real victim is our client. We demand compensation for emotional distress, it read. All I could say to my lawyer was, I'm sorry. The divorce was nearing, but our relationship as a couple was still ongoing. I wanted to get away from a husband who could make such demands. My client wants to meet and discuss in person. It seems Mark doesn't know about this, my lawyer said, handing me a letter. The letter briefly requested to verify the truth behind Mark's claims. I agreed through my lawyer and chose a location far from my current residence for precaution. At the scheduled meeting with the opposing lawyer, Mark didn't show up. The lawyer was young and polite, greeting me properly upon arrival. He revealed that his client was actually Mark's mother. According to him, Mark remained silent during their discussions, keeping his head down. His parents kept accusing me, claiming I fabricated fault to demand compensation. As I listened, the lawyer handed me a document detailing the alleged malicious actions. However, my lawyer and I noticed that the document was intentionally crafted to demean me. I explained each point in detail, and the opposing lawyer nodded earnestly, showing understanding. My lawyer presented evidence in line with my explanations. I see the content of your statements is completely different, Shelley. You have solid evidence and a strong case, he commented. Oh, this part is reversed. I pointed out and corrected a mistake. The opposing lawyer was visibly shocked. Once the explanation concluded, he left the room with the same politeness as when he arrived. My lawyer and I strategized to expose Mark and his parents' falsehoods, reaching out to other relevant parties to set up a meeting to discuss compensation. About a month after the meeting with the opposing lawyer, Mark and his parents arrived looking haggard. His mother glared at me as if seeing an enemy. You seem to be enjoying all this trouble. Who do you think is responsible for this situation? She asked, dissatisfied with the private dining room I had chosen. It was unfortunate that she didn't like the upscale restaurant she used to favor. However, her irritation might also be influenced by the fact that the opposing lawyer, having learned the truth, dropped their defense. Mother, you used to like this place, right? I anticipated her delight, but she met my words with a somber expression. We entered the restaurant, greeted by staff, briefed on our situation, and escorted to a private room. Mark remained silent until we were seated, then suddenly grew emotional. Shelley, I was wrong. Please help me. I can't go on like this. I'll do anything you say. Please come back, Mark pleaded, stunning his parents. I offered a kind smile, momentarily easing Mark's distress. However, I signaled my lawyer, who handed Mark a document. As Mark paled, I urged him to read it. His mother snatched it, glaring furiously. The document meticulously refuted each of Mark's claims in stark red ink. Enraged, she splashed water on my face, berating me for my arrogance. To everyone's surprise, I burst into laughter at the absurdity of the situation. My laughter caught them off guard, including my lawyer. Yes, it seems I wasn't the perfect wife, I quipped. I shared the burden of household chores, endured criticism for my infertility, and even had my earnings taken. As Mark's parents continued to rail against me, I signaled my lawyer, who produced a photograph. It depicted Mark entering a hotel with a young woman, my former boss and Mark's cousin Ashley. Shocked into silence, Mark couldn't deny the evidence. Ashley explained the situation, revealing Mark's infidelity. In the face of his guilt, I submitted the divorce papers and compensation documents. Mark, overwhelmed, began to cry. His parents, equally shocked, faced the reality of their son's actions. Within a month, Ashley informed me that Mark and his parents had moved due to financial strain. Mark's salary couldn't sustain their spending habits, and they sought rent assistance. The compensation for the deceived woman and myself was covered by Ashley's parents. Surprisingly, Ashley found love with Mark's former lawyer, drawn to his decisiveness. Embracing the unexpected turn of events, I started blogging about my experiences, leading to new writing opportunities. Since the divorce, I've been pursued by a corporate executive I met through business. Our relationship turned romantic, and he's proposed we live together. While I contemplate my answer, I'm certain of my decision. As I prepare for our date tomorrow, I reflect on the journey that brought me here, seated in front of my computer once again. Sophia will recount how I took control of my life and put a stop to my husband Xander's destructive influence. For privacy reasons, I'll be using pseudonyms. As a prominent lawyer in my state, anonymity is crucial for various reasons. Let's not delve into the intricacies of my and Xander's love story. We fell in love, got married, and eventually divorced. The love, it seemed, wasn't reciprocal, as Xander cheated on me. The signs were apparent: avoidance, excessive time outside, and frequent business trips, though I wasn't involved in his sizable business. Despite my success as a lawyer, Xander considered me a failure due to earning less than him. One day, during another one of his supposed business trips, I decided to investigate. I discovered a secret Facebook account on his old laptop, confirming my suspicions. He was cheating with a beautiful woman, someone he found more attractive than me, often criticizing my appearance. Heartbroken and angered, I confronted him immediately. "Sandra, are you cheating on me?" "I have proof," I declared. Xander callously responded, "Sophia, you're just not that interesting anymore. You're always engrossed in pointless cases, neglecting me. Besides, you're not a supermodel who can captivate me with looks alone." Confused, I retorted, "What are you talking about, Xander? I have a demanding job, and you knew that when we got married. I haven't neglected you. It's you who stopped coming home and refused to communicate." And that's how I discovered Xander's affair when I finally decided to confront him. I anticipated a degree of remorse from him, but the cold response I received caught me off guard. He shifted all the blame onto me, justifying his cheating, a claim that held no validity. Refusing to be falsely accused, I pointed out the flaws in his accusations. Instead of defending his position, he turned cold once more and nonchalantly revealed that he was relieved I had discovered his affair. In a chilling tone, Xander declared, "Good that you found out, Sophia. I no longer have to hide my beautiful girlfriend. She and I will have a perfect life together after I divorce your useless self. Finally, I will marry someone who's worthy of me and my name." His words hit me like a ton of bricks, sending a cold shiver down my spine. As he spoke of divorce, he not only insulted me but also asserted that I was not good enough for him. Accusing me of being a bad wife, he showed no remorse for his affair and even boasted about how a mistress would make a better spouse. Tears streamed down my face as he demeaned me, proclaiming his affair with pride. This was the man I had loved for over a decade, and his words left me shattered. Through my tears, I asked, "How could you say that, Xander? All these years, I've been beside you through thick and thin, honoring my vows and valuing you above all else." His callous response cut deep, dismissing my worth. "Well, Sophia, it doesn't matter anymore. You're just not right for me. I'm now a proud business owner, and a woman with average looks and a pretentious law degree won't do me any good." Feeling utterly demeaned, I protested. "How could you, Xander? I'm a capable woman, even if I don't fit your narrow definition of beauty. I've been a good wife to you, and now you're contemplating divorce." Correcting me, he stated coldly, "I'm not contemplating divorce, Sophia. I've already decided to divorce you. I'm done. I don't want to be with you anymore. I will file soon and have already hired a great lawyer. You better move out before I come home. I don't want to see your ugly face anymore." A few hours after Xander hung up on me, he sent the divorce papers through a friend who looked at me sympathetically. I numbly accepted the papers, shut the door, and cried miserably, letting the reality of my wasted years with a horrible man sink in. However, I decided I wouldn't let this break me. I was a strong woman who would take control of her life and teach Xander a lesson. When Xander's friend delivered the papers, he mentioned that Xander had talked about drawing out the divorce. Initially puzzled, it dawned on me that we had a prenup. Xander had insisted that I was entitled to half of his business if he cheated, something I had overlooked in my emotional turmoil. It made sense why Xander wanted to prolong the divorce. He hoped I would give up my rightful share. Determined not to let go of what was rightfully mine, I immediately called his lawyer and set up an appointment. Within 2 days, I moved out of Xander's house and into my childhood home, which was in my name. I texted Xander that I had already moved my belongings, asserting, "I took my ugly face and body out of your Dan house. Good that you've come to your senses and not making a fuss." Xander responded, boasting about his lawyer's reputation. But I calmly warned him, "I won't give you my business, that's for sure. For now, you will stay away from me." Determined to uphold the prenup, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "I don't want to talk to you. You can only speak to me through my lawyers now, and I expect you to empty my house." Xander's words ignited a surge of boiling rage within me. It's astonishing how anger and hatred can fuel one's determination when faced with such utter contempt. My mind cleared, and I couldn't help but almost laugh at Xander's ignorance. He had no clue who he was up against. Doubtful that his lawyer, Jake, knew either, I arranged a meeting with him at a cafe. Upon seeing me, Jake began to visibly tremble, only calming down upon recognizing me. He seemed confident, but not enough. Jake was a decent lawyer, but he hadn't anticipated facing off against someone like me. Xander never considered me influential, so Jake was utterly unprepared for our encounter. Jake appeared nervous and his hands shook, but I refrained from further intimidation. He wasn't to blame for my predicament. "Hello, Jake. Nice to see you here," I greeted, noticing his surprise. "If you have any doubts, let me clear them for you. Yes, I am the wife." "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I wasn't expecting you to show up," Jake stammered, flustered by my presence. "The surnames don't match because I got married after I received my law degree. I used my maiden name for official purposes," I explained. "Ah, I see," Jake muttered, visibly uncomfortable. "So I'm guessing you want to drag out this case. That's what my client has told me." "Your client has been misleading you, Jake. He's the one who wants to prolong this case. Isn't that what he told you?" I confronted him directly, knowing my reputation as a lawyer spoke volumes. Jake squirmed under my scrutiny. Accustomed to asking the right questions, I didn't mince words. "You don't have to answer that, Jake. I've known Xander for over a decade. I married that idiot for God's sake. I know what goes through his thick head." Concerned for Jake's predicament, I decided to enlighten him. "Since I know you, and it's not fair on you, I'll tell you the truth about this divorce." "What do you mean, ma'am?" Jake inquired, clearly taken aback. "Did my dear husband mention to you that he cheated on me?" I asked pointedly, watching Jake's expression for confirmation. His reaction spoke volumes, confirming my suspicions. Once again, Jake was caught off guard by my revelation. I won't lie to you guys. It did sting and hurt my ego to admit to my colleague that I had been cheated on. It's not a pleasant experience. However, I knew better than to betray my emotions. No matter how humiliated I felt, I still had the upper hand, and I was well aware of that. Jay, on the other hand, didn't know. He said, No, I don't think my client has told me about that. But he did warn me that, in his words, you would make some baseless accusations because you want to ruin him. Oh, you poor thing, Jake. Your client has played you like a fiddle. Although it might make you happy to know that Xander thinks you are one of the best lawyers out there. Well, that's a big compliment, but I will never measure up to you, ma'am, Jake confessed. I wish he had told me that his wife also practices law. He only told me that you work at a law firm. My husband never really took my accomplishments seriously. He had a habit of undermining my work and influence. It was foolish of me to stay with him this long. However, it was smart of me to sign the prenup to save my butt, I shared. Jake was completely taken aback by the mention of the word prenup. He looked shocked, and the term seemed foreign to him. I didn't need to be a rocket scientist to know that he had been ambushed again. Xander had conveniently forgotten to mention the prenup to Jake, perhaps hoping I had forgotten about it. Well, who knows? It didn't matter. Since the word of the prenup was out there, Jake was frazzled. "There's a prenup in this marriage? Your husband hadn't mentioned that. Do you have any proof, ma'am?" Jake inquired. "Oh, I do have plenty of proof, Jake. I brought the papers along." I had a feeling that Xander would try to get out of dealing with the consequences of his actions. "Well, not on my watch. I would really like to see the papers, ma'am. Also, I think I would need to see proof of his affair if you have any." "Don't worry, Jake. I brought along everything. Like I said, it isn't me who wants to drag out this divorce. The sooner it happens, the better it is for me." I handed over all the evidence to Jake, from messages to pictures and documents. I had all the proof right in my handbag, casually giving them to Jake, knowing that the case would always go in my favor. Jake studied each and every document thoroughly before signing and looking rather defeated. He then looked at me and said, "I see that you have solid proof of everything, ma'am. I had no idea about all of these things. I figured that out, Jake. Also, I know how difficult it is to work with unreliable clients, especially when the opposite party has an equally strong lawyer for their case." "You're right about that, ma'am. I think that's all I needed to talk about today. I believe I need to have a serious conversation with my client before I decide to proceed with his case. I'm sure someone will contact you soon, although I can't say that it will be me." I could tell what Jake was hinting at but didn't comment on it. I thanked him for his time and proceeded to walk out of the cafe. I went straight to work and started to prepare my own documents for the divorce. All the lingering sadness was gone. Now, there was this rage within me that was driving me to make sure Xander suffered for what he had done, and I knew he had no way out of this mess he had created. It took Xander one day to get back to me. He called me on my number despite telling me not to contact him directly. It was funny but not surprising. I knew he would find himself in this situation. When I answered his call, he sounded very pissed off. "What the hell did you say to my lawyer, Sophia?" My, look who's calling after telling me to stay away." "Now what happened with your lawyer, Xander? Stop playing around, Sophia. Tell me what you told him that made him quit today." "Your lawyer quit today? How sad, Xander. I guess you should have been upfront about your situation and who they would be fighting against. You don't know what you're saying? You are a freaking nobody. I won't let you take away my family business." "Oh, I would like to see you try, Xander. I will hire a better lawyer and doubt you. Just wait and watch. I will destroy you in court. You will come to me begging for mercy." "Well, sounds like a plan, Xander. Good luck with that. But a word of advice from a lawyer. Remember to tell your new lawyer about your affair and the prenup." When I said that, Xander simply hung up on me. It made me chuckle. He was in deep trouble but still didn't know it. He would try every lawyer in town and see if anyone would represent him. I am a known name here, so people knew not to mess with me. Plus, anyone stupid enough to believe his lies would be dragged down to reality when I presented them with my ammo. Xander said that he would make me beg for mercy. I knew that it would be a matter of time before he would come begging at my door. I was right in thinking that Xander would be back, begging at my door. He literally had no other choice. One fine morning, while I was getting ready for work, there was a knock at my door. I was a little confused about who showed up at such an odd time. Imagine my surprise when I opened the door and found my soon-to-be ex-husband, looking forlorn and weary. I invited him in because I didn't want the scene outside my home. I was already dealing with enough. When he came inside, I said, "Make it quick, Xander. I don't have enough time to waste on you. I don't even know why you're here. We were supposed to strictly communicate through lawyers only." "Yeah, about that. I haven't found a good divorce lawyer yet." "Oh, that's sad for you, Xander. You better hurry up because I hear that your mistress has been dying to marry you. I'm not worried about her anymore. Listen, Sophia, we need to talk. You have been sabotaging my lawyer so that they wouldn't take my case. That is very unfair." I immediately laughed when he said that. I couldn't believe that Xander would have the audacity to pin the entire blame on me. This once again showed how little he valued my profession. He thought that just because he was willing to throw money, people would pull at his feet. Oh dear, that's an amazing joke, Xander. Let me just clear that misconception for you. I haven't been sabotaging anything. It's your stupidity that's causing trouble. I don't understand. What did I even do? Should I remind you how you lied to your lawyers about the affair and the prenup? That is enough to make them look like fools in court. Do you think lawyers would jump at representing unreliable clients like you? Besides, I will admit that my name will make a lot of people walk away. You may consider me to be useless, but I actually do have a good name in this profession. Yes, I know that now, Sophia. I've tried being open with lawyers too, but none of them are willing to help me. That's what happens when you try to go against an ironclad prenup. You really should have thought your affair through, Xander. Not that it matters now. The damage is done. No sane lawyer would fight for your cause. You'll be giving me half of your business. Xander's facial expression said it all. He didn't want to lose his business. I mean, that's why he tried to pick a good lawyer and drag out the divorce. He wanted to keep me hanging long enough until I would snap and just leave him alone without demanding half of his company. After a few days, it became clear to him that no one would take his side. Hell, he was even finding it hard to find any lawyer who would go against me. So, he did what he thought was his last resort. He started to cry and beg. Sophia, you know how much this business means to me. Please don't do this. You can take everything else, but please don't ask to split the business. Why not, Xander? You were the one who put in the clause of splitting the business in case you cheated. You think I will give up my rights that easily? I deserve it after the betrayal you threw in my face. It was all a mistake, Sophia. Believe me. I have actually put my relationship on hold because I know what a big mistake it was. Maybe, just maybe, we can give this marriage a try. I can say for sure that this hurdle will only make us stronger. Xander's words made me laugh out loud again. The audacity of this man was unmatched by anyone I knew. I really didn't know what to say. He was actually asking to get back together, as if I would be stupid enough to do that. I didn't know that he had put a pause on his relationship with his mistress. The rumors were out that the mistress was not happy, and neither was Xander. But if he thinks this will make me go back to him, he is dead wrong. I already made the mistake of marrying a piece of and learned my lesson the hard way. Plus, I knew why he was suddenly desperate to get me back. You must be delusional for suggesting something like that, Xander. I didn't come this far in life by being utterly stupid. I know that you want to get back to me because you don't want to split your business. Sophia, we were happy together. Let's just look past this one time and restart our marriage. I will cut off my mistress. I swear there's no reason to do that, Xander. Believe me, that woman is going to start running once she finds out that you won't be very rich after the divorce. As for me, this is my golden chance to get out of this sham of a marriage. I must thank you for showing your true colors before we had kids. Now you will reap what you have sown. With that, I was pretty much done with my piece. I immediately stopped talking while Xander kept begging and pleading with me not to take his business. It was a rather pathetic scene, but it didn't move me at all. Instead, it made me think of the times I went to bed crying because this piece of expletive I call my husband decided to betray me. Seeing Xander in a vulnerable place only gave me satisfaction and completed my revenge. Now, I simply needed a clean break to start fresh. Well, I definitely got more than what I had bargained for. Karma hit Xander hard and fast. He tried for weeks to change my mind and make me come back home. I turned a blind eye to everything simply because I wasn't interested in his drama. I was ready to move on. Since he had filed for divorce already, I hired someone from my firm to represent me. I'm not a divorce lawyer, so I couldn't do it myself. Besides, I wanted as minimum interaction with him as possible. After a month of trying to change my mind, he was forced to get a lawyer and ask for a clean break. He knew that if I took the case to court, he would only face humiliation and ultimately waste money on lawyers appointed by the court. So he receded and asked for a mutual split. The prenup made it super easy for me to get the divorce. Of course, I had plenty of proof to show everyone that Xander cheated. As per the prenup, he was supposed to give up half of his business to me. He wasn't happy. But there was no way out, so he signed over half of it to me. We did give him an offer to buy me out, but he had no money. Now, why would a big business owner like Xander have no money, you ask? Well, he had spent it all on his mistress, who is now not taking his calls or texts. I guess she figured out that he won't be rich anymore. But now, no one is willing to date her because they know what a gold digger she is. What goes around comes around, I guess. Well, the mistress was the least of Xander's troubles. With half of his business gone, his earnings were severely reduced. He had to sell his house because he didn't have much money to maintain it or even pay the mortgage properly. He's currently renting a condo that is a serious downgrade from the big mansion he stayed at. He did try to get back with me again in the hopes of regaining full control of his business. Well, safe to say that is never happening. He now either has to continue the way it is or manage to save enough money to buy me out. If you want to know about me, I'm actually doing pretty well. I have appointed someone to take care of my share of Xander's business, and so far, things have been amazing. I ended up upgrading my lifestyle by buying a new mansion due to my combined income from law practice and business. Things are going well. I'm living my best life, and I honestly couldn't be happier. All in all, the divorce played out well for me. Instead of getting played by my ex-husband and his mistress, I ended up ruining their lives and bettering mine.
The day my family disowned me, it was raining. I remember that detail clearly. The way the water streamed down the windows of Harrison Industries' executive conference room, while inside, my father's face turned an alarming shade of red. "Incompetent," he shouted, slamming a stack of papers onto the polished table. "Do you have any idea what your mistake could have cost us?" I stood there, 22 years old and fresh out of business school, trying not to cry. "Dad, I can fix it. The contract isn't final yet." "Fix it?" My older brother Michael's laugh was cruel. "You nearly sold our shipping division for half its value. There is no fixing that kind of stupidity." The mistake they were talking about was a draft contract I'd prepared for the sale of Harrison Maritime, one of our smaller divisions. I'd accidentally used outdated valuation figures, ones that didn't include our recent fleet expansion. The error was caught before any real damage was done, but to hear my family tell it, I'd nearly destroyed a century of Harrison family business. "I trusted you with this," my father continued, his voice dropping to something even worse than yelling: disappointment. "I gave you a chance to prove yourself, and this is how you repay that trust." I tried to explain that I'd been working 80-hour weeks, that I'd been trying to handle both the maritime deal and the new tech acquisition they dumped on my desk. But excuses didn't matter in the Harrison family. Results were all they cared about. "Jack," my mother's voice from the doorway made us all turn. She stood there in her perfect channel suit, looking more like a CEO than the socialite she pretended to be. "The board is waiting." My father straightened his tie. "We'll finish this discussion later." But we didn't. That evening, I was called to my father's study, the room where 3 generations of Harrison men had made the decisions that built our family empire. The leather-bound books and old oil paintings seemed to watch disapprovingly as my father delivered his verdict. "You're done here," he said without preamble. "The board has lost confidence in your judgment. Your position at Harrison Industries is terminated, effective immediately." I felt like I'd been punched. "Dad, please. It was one mistake. A mistake we can't afford." He wouldn't even look at me. "You'll receive 6 months severance. After that, you're on your own." "You're firing me? I'm your daughter." "Which is exactly why this hurts so much." he finally met my eyes. "You're not just an employee, Emma. You're a Harrison. We trusted you to live up to that name, and you failed." My mother's voice came from behind me. I hadn't even heard her enter. "We've arranged a position for you at your uncle's firm in Seattle, far enough away that this incident won't reflect badly on the family." I turned to face her, shocked. "You want me to leave New York?" "Want has nothing to do with it." Her perfectly painted lips barely moved. "The decision has been made. Your flight leaves tomorrow morning. And if I refuse—" My father's voice hardened. "Then you're on your own completely. No severance, no connections, no family support. Your choice." I looked between them, the parents who had pushed me toward business school, who had drilled the importance of the Harrison legacy into me since childhood. Now they were casting me aside over one mistake. "Some choice," I whispered. Only one person in the family stood up for me that night. My grandfather, Thomas Harrison Teal, the man who had turned our regional shipping company into a global corporate empire. He stormed into my father's study just as I was leaving, his weathered face dark with anger. "Jack, you fool," he growled at my father. "You have no idea what you're throwing away." But my father stood firm. "Dad, the board has already—" "The board?" Grandpa's laugh was bitter. "You mean those yes-men you surrounded yourself with? The ones who forgot what built this company in the first place." I had never seen my grandfather so angry. He turned to me, his expression softening. "Emma, dear, come stay with me. We'll sort this out." But I was already shaking my head. The humiliation was too fresh, the pain too raw. "No, Grandpa, they've made their choice." I left that night, ignoring my mother's carefully planned Seattle arrangement. The 6 months severance would be enough to start over somewhere, anywhere that wasn't under my family's shadow. What I didn't know then was that my grandfather had already set something in motion, something that wouldn't be revealed until 10 years later, when his will would turn the Harrison family upside down. That night, I checked into a hotel using my personal credit card, soon to be my only credit card, once my corporate accounts were frozen. I sat on the generic floral bedspread and opened my laptop, staring at the draft contract that had supposedly destroyed my future. Except, something wasn't right. I had worked on dozens of contracts during my brief time at Harrison Industries. I knew my own writing style, my own formatting preferences. This contract was different. Small things, spacing, font choices, even some of the language, were off. With trembling fingers, I pulled up the original file from my secured backup drive. The differences were subtle but unmistakable. Someone had altered my work before it reached the board. Someone had wanted me to fail. I thought about my brother Michael's smirk, the way he had been so quick to condemn my mistake, the way he had positioned himself as the only competent heir to the Harrison empire. My grandfather's voice echoed in my head. "You have no idea what you're throwing away." But maybe I did. Maybe I understood exactly what had happened, and why. I closed my laptop and walked to the window, watching the city lights blur through the rain. 10 years ago, my great-grandfather had passed control of Harrison Industries to my grandfather instead of his older brother, a decision that had shocked the business world. History, it seemed, had a way of repeating itself in our family. My phone buzzed. A text from my grandfather. "Nothing is what it seems, Emma. Watch. Wait. Learn." I took a deep breath, making a decision that would shape the next decade of my life. I would not run to Seattle. I would not fade quietly into obscurity. I would watch. I would wait. And most importantly, I would learn exactly how deep this betrayal went. What my family didn't know, what even my grandfather couldn't have predicted, was that their mistake was about to turn into their worst nightmare. Because the contract I had actually prepared, the one that had been altered without my knowledge, it contained a hidden clause, a small but crucial detail that would only become apparent years later. A detail that would give me control of Harrison Maritime's most valuable assets, right when the family needed them most. I smiled at my reflection in the rain-streaked window. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about failure. Instead, they were about to learn one about underestimating the wrong person. My grandfather's next text arrived just as I was falling asleep. Remember, dear, in business, as in chess, the queen is the most powerful piece on the board, even if some fools think she's just a pawn. I didn't understand his message then, but I would. Oh, how I would. 10 years is a long time to wait for revenge. But my grandfather taught me that patience was worth more than gold in the business world, and he was right. I spent the first year building my cover, a small consulting firm in Boston, far enough from New York to avoid family scrutiny, but close enough to keep tabs on Harrison Industries. My grandfather's cryptic messages continued, each one teaching me something new about our family empire. Watch the shipping manifests for the Singapore route, he would text. Or, pay attention to the Anderson merger terms. Small breadcrumbs that helped me understand the bigger picture. The mistake that got me fired? It wasn't just about the maritime division. That contract had been a test. One designed to show the board that I wasn't fit to lead. What my brother Michael hadn't realized was that I had left my own test hidden in the fine print. Clause 23.4, subsection B, buried in the technical specifications. In the event of division restructuring or transfer of assets, original signatory maintains first right of refusal on all Pacific Rim shipping routes and associated infrastructure. A clause that would mean nothing for years, until Harrison Industries decided to restructure their entire shipping operation, which, according to my grandfather's intelligence, was exactly what they were planning. I built my new life carefully, layer by layer. My consulting firm, Phoenix Maritime Solutions, specialized in shipping logistics and port management. We were small but efficient, earning a reputation for solving complex problems that bigger firms couldn't handle. My brother Michael, meanwhile, was living the life of the chosen heir. I watched from afar as he appeared in business magazines, accepting awards and making grand promises about Harrison Industries' future. Our parents beamed in every photo, the perfect corporate family. Only my grandfather seemed to see through the facade. Your brother's latest acquisition is built on sand, he told me during one of our secret meetings, always in small cafes far from Manhattan. He's leveraging the company's future on short-term gains. I nodded, stirring my coffee. The Asian expansion? Smoke and mirrors. Grandpa's eyes twinkled. He's using the Maritime Division's assets as collateral, thinking they're worth more than they are. Because he never understood the real value was in the routes, not the ships, I finished. Exactly. He reached into his briefcase. Now, about those route licenses coming up for renewal. We spent the next hour reviewing documents that would have made my father's blood pressure spike. My grandfather wasn't just keeping me informed. He was teaching me how to take back what was rightfully mine. The years passed. I grew Phoenix Maritime Solutions into a respected name in the industry, though I stayed carefully out of the spotlight. My employees were handpicked, loyal, and well compensated for their discretion. None of them knew about my connection to Harrison Industries. I dated occasionally, but never seriously. The last man I trusted with my real identity had run straight to my brother with the information. After that, I kept my personal life as carefully controlled as my business one. My parents sent obligatory Christmas cards to my Boston address, cards I never responded to. Each year, they included a note about how well Michael was doing, how the company was thriving under his leadership. I filed each card away in a folder labeled Motivation. Then, 3 years ago, everything started changing. The cracks in Michael's perfect facade began to show. First came the whispers about missed payments to major suppliers. Then rumors of delayed shipments and angry clients. Harrison Industries' stock price, while still strong, showed troubling fluctuations. Your brother mortgaged the company's future, my grandfather explained during what would turn out to be our last meeting. Now those bills are coming due. He looked tired that day, more so than usual. I should have recognized it as a warning sign. The board is starting to ask questions, he continued. About the maritime division especially. The restructuring plan. Will trigger my clause, I finished, if they try to sell off or reorganize the shipping routes. You'll have first right of refusal. He smiled proudly. The clause they never noticed, hidden in the contract they used to destroy you. 2 months later, my grandfather had a stroke. The doctors said it was quick, painless. The official announcement praised him as a titan of industry, the man who built Harrison Industries into a global power. I attended the funeral, of course, standing in the back of the church, watching my family play their roles of grieving heirs. Michael gave a touching eulogy about learning business at our grandfather's knee. I nearly laughed out loud at that. The only thing Michael had learned from Grandpa was how to take credit for other people's work. My parents saw me, but didn't approach. Maybe they were ashamed. More likely, they were worried I would cause a scene. I left before the reception, driving straight to my lawyer's office. Your grandfather's will reading is scheduled for next week, she informed me. He was very specific about the timing. I nodded, unsurprised. Everything about my grandfather was specific and carefully planned. All major shareholders and family members are required to attend in person, she continued. No proxies allowed. Again, typical Grandpa. He would want everyone there to witness whatever he had planned. The next week passed in a blur of preparation. I reviewed every document, every contract, every piece of information my grandfather had shared over the past decade. Phoenix Maritime Solutions was positioned perfectly, cash reserves high, credit lines secure, relationships with key players solidified. The morning of the will reading, I dressed carefully in a charcoal gray suit that cost more than my entire wardrobe from my Harrison Industries days. My hair was elegantly styled, my makeup perfect. No one looking at me would see the scared 22-year-old who had fled in the rain 10 years ago. As I drove to the lawyer's office, my phone buzzed with an alert. Harrison Industries stock had dropped another 2 points in early trading. Rumors were swirling about their ability to meet next quarter's obligations. The timing, like everything else about this situation, was perfect. I parked my car and checked my reflection one last time. In my purse was a copy of the original maritime contract, the one with my hidden clause. In my briefcase were documents proving every mistake, every misstep, every bad decision my brother had made while playing corporate emperor. And in my head was 10 years' worth of knowledge about Harrison Industries operations, knowledge that was about to become very, very valuable. I stepped into the elevator, watching the floor numbers climb. My grandfather's last text message played in my mind. The game is won before the first piece moves. The doors opened onto a floor full of familiar faces frozen in shock. My father dropped his coffee cup. My mother's perfect mask cracked. And my brother Michael, the golden child, the chosen heir, turned white as a sheet. "Hello, family," I said calmly. "Shall we begin?" The conference room at Caldwell and Associates law firm crackled with tension. My family had arranged themselves exactly as I expected. Michael at the head of the table, our parents flanking him like royal advisors. The board members filled the remaining seats, all carefully avoiding my gaze. Mr. Caldwell, my grandfather's personal attorney for over 40 years, cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I should note that Thomas was very specific about the order in which his will should be read. He left detailed instructions." Yes, Michael interrupted. "Can we get on with it? Some of us have a company to run." I bit back a smile. In a few minutes, that statement would be hilariously ironic. Mr. Caldwell opened an envelope, his expression carefully neutral. "Very well. This is the last will and testament of Thomas Harrison AI. The first few items were standard: personal belongings to various family members, charitable donations, arrangements for his staff." My mother dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief when he left her his antique jewelry collection. My father nodded approvingly at the size of the charitable endowments. Then came the part everyone was waiting for. Regarding Harrison Industries, Mr. Caldwell paused, adjusting his glasses. "The situation is complex." Michael leaned forward. "Complex how?" The succession plan was clear. As CEO, as interim CEO, Mr. Caldwell corrected. "Your position, like many things, was temporary pending the reading of this will." The room went silent. I watched the color drain from my brother's face as Mr. Caldwell continued reading. "To my grandson, Michael, I leave these words of wisdom. Power without understanding is like a ship without a rudder. You sought control, but never learned why our company worked. You chased growth without appreciating the foundation that supported it. And most tragically, you betrayed your own sister to advance yourself." Michael shot to his feet. "This is ridiculous. I didn't." "Sit down," Mr. Caldwell said firmly. "There's more." He pulled out another document, one I recognized, my original maritime contract. 10 years ago, a contract was deliberately altered to discredit Emma Harrison and force her removal from the company. I have here the original document, along with proof of who made those alterations. My father's face had turned an interesting shade of purple. "That's ancient history. The board's decision was based on falsified evidence," Mr. Caldwell finished. "Evidence that Michael provided after tampering with his sister's work." The board members began murmuring among themselves. I noticed several of them eyeing the exits. Furthermore, Mr. Caldwell continued, "The original contract contained a clause that becomes particularly relevant now." "Emma, would you like to explain?" All eyes turned to me. I stood slowly, smoothing my suit jacket. Clause 23.4, subsection B, gives the original signatory, me, first right of refusal on all Pacific Rim shipping routes and associated infrastructure in the event of division restructuring. "Which means nothing," Michael snapped. "We're not restructuring the maritime division." Actually, I pulled out my phone, displaying the morning stock alerts. "You are. The Singapore deal you announced last week? The one meant to save the company from the debt you've accumulated. It can't happen without restructuring the shipping operations. Which means you need my approval," I finished, "and you won't get." The room erupted in chaos. Board members were already on their phones, likely calling their lawyers. My mother had actual tears running down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. My father looked like he might have a stroke. Mr. Caldwell raised his voice over the din. There's more. From his briefcase, he produced a thick folder. Thomas Harrison's majority shareholding in Harrison Industries is hereby transferred in its entirety to his granddaughter, Emma Harrison. The silence that followed was deafening. Additionally, he continued, all voting rights associated with the family trust shares are to be exercised by Emma Harrison, effective immediately. Michael collapsed back into his chair. This can't be legal. Dad, do something. But our father was staring at another document Mr. Caldwell had placed on the table, a detailed report of Harrison Industries' finances under Michael's leadership. Your grandfather spent the last 10 years documenting every mistake, every poor decision, every instance of mismanagement. Mr. Caldwell explained. He worked closely with Emma to understand the true state of the company while you were all believing your own press releases. I stepped forward, placing my own folder on the table. Phoenix Maritime Solutions, my company, has spent years building relationships with the clients you've been neglecting. We've secured contracts you didn't even know were available. And now you own us, my father whispered. No, I corrected. I own what's mine. What should have been mine 10 years ago, before you chose to believe lies over truth? Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat. There's one final item. A letter Thomas wanted read aloud. He opened a sealed envelope and began reading. To my family, power doesn't come from titles or boardroom theatrics. It comes from understanding your business, your people, and most importantly, yourself. 10 years ago, you cast aside the one person who truly understood what made Harrison Industries work. You chose flash over substance, greed over growth, betrayal over loyalty. Emma didn't just survive your betrayal, she thrived despite it. While you were all watching Michael play CEO, she was learning every aspect of this industry. She built her own success while watching you destroy your inheritance. Consider this my final lesson in business. True leadership isn't about who can grab power fastest. It's about who can wield it wisely. Emma, the company is yours. Make it what it should have been all along. To the rest of you, learn from this if you can. With love and disappointment in equal measure, Thomas Harrison A.E. Michael was the first to break the silence. You planned this. All of it. You and Grandpa. No, I cut him off. You planned this the day you decided to forge documents to destroy my career. Grandpa and I just made sure you'd face the consequences. I turned to the board members. A car is waiting outside to take you to Phoenix Maritime's offices. My team will brief you on the restructuring plan we've developed. Those who wish to remain with the company will have the opportunity to prove their value. Those who don't, I smiled. Well, I hear my brother will be looking for work soon. You can't just walk in here and take over, my father protested weakly. Actually, that's exactly what I'm doing. I gathered my documents. The shareholders' meeting is in 1 hour. I suggest you all decide whose side you're on before then. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Michael? Clear out your office by 5. I'm moving in tomorrow. The next few weeks were exactly what you'd expect when a decade of mismanagement comes to light. The press had a field day with the story. Harrison Harris returns. The greatest corporate comeback in history was my personal favorite headline. The shareholders, seeing the detailed plans I'd developed with my grandfather, overwhelmingly supported the transition. Harrison Industries' stock price stabilized, then began to climb as we implemented changes. Michael, predictably, tried to sue. His case fell apart when our father, finally facing the truth about his chosen heir, testified about the document forgery from 10 years ago. My mother attempted reconciliation in her own way. Lunch invitations, shopping offers, suggestions that we should all just move forward as a family. I declined every invitation. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. 1 month after taking control, I stood in my grandfather's old office, my office now, looking out over the city. On my desk sat the contract that had started everything, framed as a reminder that sometimes losing is just winning in disguise. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. I opened it to find a photo of my grandfather, taken the day he caught Michael altering my work. He'd kept it all these years, waiting for the right moment. Below the photo was a message, scheduled to be sent after his death. The Queen has taken her throne. Checkmate, my dear. Checkmate. I smiled, touching the frame of that old contract. The family that cast me out had thought they were ending my story. Instead, they had only written its beginning. And now, finally, they understood exactly what they had thrown away.